Call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The time is 5:30. This board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with the board's attorney, and the time is 5:30. The board will now convene an open session, and the time is 6:43 p.m. Item 4, board workshop, a discussion of facility audit committee proposed bond projects by subcategory. Ms. Caldwell.
Mr. President, trustees, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests, we are pleased to bring you a very short presentation and then open it up to your questions tonight. I'd like to recognize many of our facility steering committee members who are in the audience with us, both community members and staff, who will be part of the presentation this evening. Dr. Micah is going to kick us off with how we got here.
And before Dr. Micah goes, I did want to say thank you to everybody thank you for your patience while we were in executive session, and also for being here to give your part of the presentation. So.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Thank you. So I'm going to do this very quickly, but for some of you that weren't on the board back, this really began, and Ms. Landry, I always, when I go over into your area, I always blame Madison High School for this problem, but you know, back in 21, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, right? But back in 21, if you'll remember, back then we had to replace the chillers over at Madison, and we had an issue. And that really, the reason it got brought, you know, I really started contemplating it is because the refrigerant in those systems was a very old refrigerant that became obsolete in 2010. And so, as I've said around to some folks in our system, you know, there's nothing as a homeowner that you hate more than a surprised bill, right? Something that you don't expect. Well, this is one of those things, and when we're looking at replacing a lot of chillers, that's over a $2 million investment and expense. And I say that because, as you see here on our slide, you know, in 2010 and 2015, we had bonds and it didn't go in there, and I thought, gosh, I wonder what else maybe we're missing. Do we even know all of what we have? And what I always say, and what I've expressed to my staff, whether it's this or other things, I always just say I need a clear line of sight. So that's like after a legislative session, and we're going to talk about that stuff on Thursday night. It's just, you know, it was things get passed and you don't know until the bills come out and people interpret it. It's all about clear line of sight, and that's just kind of how I felt here. Is I needed a really good clear line of sight. Jorge, if you'll go to the next one. So, you know, as you well know, some of you that were on the board, we hired a firm called Gordian, who came in and did a facility assessment. Here's some of the things that I learned, folks. We own 458 buildings and 240 portables. That's a lot of stuff, right? More than we can, and as you can see, it's just a little over 12 million square feet. Now, I show you here, like, look, we operate more buildings than Texas has Dairy Queens. Like, that's a huge deal. But the thing is, and you know, that 12 million square feet, and as I talk to people about our district, I talk to them about trying to get it into numbers and things that we can wrap around our heads around. So if you live in a 2,400 square foot home, that means we are running 5,000 of those homes at 12 million square feet. Like, it's mind-boggling to look at it. It's really all a lot about size. And as you can see here, this is just one stat, but If you take all the perimeter fencing we have outside of our schools, it lines up from here to Buda. Like it's absolutely the volume of what we deal with in our system, because we're rather large. It just makes a lot of things. So that's really kind of how we got this. Wasn't something that started last year. It really began many, many years ago that we have. So I'm going to turn it over to, I think, Ms. Caldwell to kind of take it from there.
Thank you, Dr. Micah. As we mentioned, the Facility Steering Committee, which you appointed members to, convened in December. In January and February, they reviewed the Gordian information as well as some needs that were brought forward from our staff, things that were not part of the Gordian assessment, buses, things along those lines. In March, in meeting number 5, that's when they dived in to school finance and bond history. So a question you may have tonight, or our community may have tonight, is how did they settle on $495 million as a recommendation to you all? I'm going to walk you through that process. So at that meeting number 5, they reviewed the bond history. There's that table there on this slide that shows you, generally speaking, what amount this district has gone out for to our voters to request approval for bond programs. In meeting number 6, they spent time in their table groups to really start coming up with a total amount that they would recommend and begin to think about that budget. So as they chose projects, they had some parameters of how much they could spend. So Jorge, if you'll advance the slide. So in that meeting number 6, they had a tabletop exercise where they met in their tables and they used this worksheet that's there to first reflect themselves on what they think an appropriate budget and percentage breakdown across those categories could be, what as a group, as a table group, what they could settle on. And then there was a final column in case they wanted to record the committee's work. And there was a lot of conversation. After that meeting number 6, a lot of back and forth between tables because there were lots of different recommendations made. They settled as an initial investment recommendation at $474.5 million. That's the table there on the left. Again, that was a planning number so that as they began their project work, they understood what their budget was. Then after they prioritized the projects, and we're going to spend a lot of time tonight talking about how they prioritize projects, but after they prioritized those projects, after meeting 10, the dollar amount was $493,215,786. So we needed to revise that investment goal from where we started to where we ended up. And after meeting 10, Jorge Cabello, who is my co-presenter tonight, our Executive Director of Construction Management Engineering, he refined some pricing between 10 and 11, meeting 10 and 11. So we took a vote. The members voted on that original investment goal of $474.5, that cost after their meeting 10 selections, and then the cost after he revised the numbers heading into meeting 11. Can you go back, please? I'm sorry. So this was just a dipstick. This was just, how are you feeling? Before we really settle in on a number in meeting 11, how are you feeling based off of numbers you've seen? So that's why we took that vote. So ultimately, after talking again about meeting number 11, talking again about that investment strategy, they settled at $495 million. Those were the percentages that were presented to you in June. Go ahead, Jorge. So I'd like to turn it over to Jorge Cabello to talk about how they prioritized, came up with a scoring rubric to actually select projects.
Thank you, Deb. In addition, for the Facility Steering Committee to determine a strategy for the finance portion, they were to develop a prioritization, a rubric, if you will. No one will actually build a home or a project without a blueprint. I'm dating myself, ain't I? Blueprints are no longer a term used. A plan. And the same thing, because the plan provides structure, clarity, and confidence. The same thing with the rubric. So we asked the committee members is we need to develop a plan to determine how we're going to rank, how we're going to rate each of the single projects that has been brought to your attention. And we asked Gordian Group, we asked them for a suggestion. They provided a wealth of information, Gordian has been very instrumental in assisting the district in not only identifying our needs, our existing facility needs, but also providing some insights of how others, clients of theirs, provide rubrics. And it has to be determined based on certain criteria. An investment criteria, what's up in the screen. Here, Gordian typically uses four categories: investment, the time frame, how long will the project be lasting, the actual condition of the building. And then they said, well, Northeast, you can customize that and provide a Northeast ISD prioritization that you're willing to use. But you have to rank each of the building components. You divide it, evaluate first from a component level, which either it's a mechanical component or a plumbing component or electrical component. How are you going to prioritize one component over the other? Whether it's a building within a campus, whether it's an educational building, or if it's going to be a support building within the campus. How are you going to categorize or evaluate one building over another? Whether it's one campus over another campus that has basically the same needs, how are you going to rank each? So they suggested for Northeast standards, we will recommend having the following categories: the investment, the time frame, the building conditions, categories that they had brought to us their attention. But then comes the customization, the school building occupancy. What is the occupancy of that particular campus? The student impact. They're getting very specific, and they provided us this information for us to customize this rubric to our needs, not somebody else's needs. Retention rate by the student or by the program. And then comparability. How does that project compare to other projects, similar projects, or other campus around? So it is a formula. It is a formula based on objective. It is not based on emotion. It is a subjective. It doesn't play into this part. It's all objective. So we asked the committee members, now that you've heard this presentation, now that you've learned about what a rubric, the needs for the rubric is, let's start developing the rubrics, the categories. So we gave them a worksheet, and they came up with a worksheet. Now we told each committee, whether safety, security, facilities, extracurricular, or maintenance and operation, had to develop their own customized rubric, because you cannot just develop one rubric and use that across the board for each of the different categories in the facility master plan. So they got together in meeting 8. They developed the rubrics. They subdivided. They went into their own little sessions in small group discussions, and they talked amongst themselves based on what criteria are we going to develop to prioritize the projects that we need to evaluate. Meeting 9, they started scoring. Once they developed the rubric, they started scoring each project. At one point, we did not let the committee members know when the subject matter experts were presenting the projects to the committees, we did not tell them where that particular project was located. We masked the data because we wanted to be open, and that not, again, emotion was not a factor in deciding which projects needed to be evaluated. And we also, when they evaluated, scored each particular project, we asked them, now you tell me of those projects that you prioritized in meeting number 9, give me an indication which projects do you want me to price. We were evaluating over 1,500 projects in one scope. So for everybody's best interest, give me those projects. So that's how the committee, and I commend their efforts, because they were very engaged. They were very upfront. Every single meeting, we met 12 times, did we not, Deb? We were very back and forth with the committee members. They were all present at all the committee meetings, and we asked them at one point, how do you feel? What more information do you need from us, from the subject matter experts? And they were at first they were saying, we need more information, we want to know why the needs of the projects. And then they got to a point in which they felt informed. And I have to commend also the subject matter experts that I'm going to call up front to answer any questions that you have, because it was all informative, not based on emotion. It was informative. These are the projects that we need, and we also told them that we need to develop a 5-year plan. And we have to shortlist that plan, and that's what we are required. So without further ado, I would like to ask for Dan Lyon and Chief Wally McCampbell up to the front, which represents the Safety and Security Subcommittee. Now, Ray Cardenas, unfortunately, at the last minute had to attend to a business meeting that is going to keep him away from tonight, but he was very, very, very engaged and provided a lot of information. He has a lot of expertise that brought a lot of value to it. The subcommittee from Safety and Security had 3 categories in their rubric: investment criteria score, what's highlighted in yellow, the time frame, and the student impact. Each of those categories had a subcategory. The investment, is it required by code? Is it a safety issue? And if it is, that particular project is going to get 3 points. If it's not a safety or code related, is it a reliable investment? Is there going to be a return on the investment? How sure is that investment and needed? If it is, then it scores 2, and so on and so forth, in all the 3 different categories. They evaluated projects that consisted, all 9 projects that was presented by the subject matter experts from police cars, fencing, cameras, proxy readers, things that we currently have in the district and we need to maintain and upgrade. So I would like to turn it over to Chief and Dan for you to be attentive to any questions. I just encourage you to speak to the mic so that everybody can hear you.
Thank you, Jorge. Good evening, everyone. Just like to say that the Safety and Security Committee, what we did is we wanted the community to pretty much pick the projects. So Paul, Doreen, and I, who was the subject matter experts in this, all we did was provide a list. We had the community members create the rubric of what they want, how they wanted to value each project. So pretty much all we were is just being there to answer any questions that they may have. And so our group committee basically let the community pick the projects they wanted to look at and to fund. And so these were the projects that Paul and I came up with, and then let the committee grade each one. And luckily enough, we were able to fund with the amount of the percentage that we had available to us. We were able to fund all the projects that Paul and I had recommendations to present to the committee. So with that, answer any questions that y'all would have. Lights up. So keep going. And more with thinking. Yeah. Thank you, that. Try that again.
I have, Lisa.
Did
I
you
have a question.
Ms. Cox?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, what is a master key system?
So the master key system, what it is I wish I could have brought my props tonight, because we have what we call key bags. And it's a pretty big bag containing all the keys within the district. And what that does is, the problem is we don't know which key fits to which door at which campus. I mean, we know the campuses, but which building. So what the master key system will do, it will create a master key. For an example, I would have one key that would unlock every single door in the district. The officers would have 7 keys that would unlock every single door within their cluster. So basically, we would set up a cluster key system where the officers and we'd have a better accountability of how to get into each door in each campus within the district. And it would make it easier for us as we do building clearing or other things, be able to gain access into that building and help secure it and make it safe.
Thank you. So that's something specific to your department, not for the...
Well, the campus would also get a master key
Okay.
that the principal would have that would open every door.
That would open every
And then
door.
the teachers would have one to go into their buildings and into their classrooms. So we're not the only ones that would benefit, the campuses would also as well.
Okay, thank you.
So just to add to that, principals and our maintenance staff carry a humongous ring of keys. This would create a system where, based off of your level of need, whether you're the principal or the police chief, or you're a teacher, you're going to have a different key to access different parts of the building. So it truly is taking rings of keys and reducing it to a smaller number so that law enforcement can respond and a principal can respond in a quick way.
I think Ms. Shelton had a question, and then we'll get to you, Ms. Fitzgerald.
Three questions as a follow-up. Are those keys duplicatable?
Well, I'm sure any key is duplicatable, but that would be something that maintenance would have to answer because they're the ones that would be the ones that would initiate it.
Okay.
So it's like any other key. It's just a regular key. It's just there's keyed as a master and then submaster and then down, down, down. So, anyone that has access would, just like your home key or anything else, can be duplicated.
My concern is least privilege, right? And somebody having a key.
Right.
And then, so you see where I'm going with
Yes.
that? That's, okay. It says question number 1. Question number 2, everything that's under current, are we doing that right now? So I'm looking at on the security page, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 things that we've identified as have time frame as current. Does that mean we're currently doing that, or?
No, that's the need. So it's a current need, like replacing the 3,600 cameras from analog to IP is a current need to better enhance the security of our camera systems throughout the district.
Okay. And then my third question and final for now is the district-wide integrated PA system. Does that mean that if I'm sitting at Montgomery, I can go in my PA system and I can hear somewhere else, or what does that mean?
So basically what that is, it's to upgrade all of our campuses to one particular type of PA system. And that PA system would be able to have enhancements. For an example, down the road, if we wanted to, during a lockdown or secure, we could put message boards throughout the hallways. So that would go through the PA system to let the students and the staff know that we're going into a lockdown. We'd be able to put strobe lights, different colors, to let people notify that the school is going into a secure and lockdown. So it has capabilities that we'd be able to add on other than just talking over a PA system into a classroom or the building or campus-wide.
So part B of my last question is, so this integrated PA system, does it come with all of those add-ons? Does it come with the strobe lights and the boards? Or are we buying this and then we're going to have to add additional costs to get those things?
Additional support that we could add on to if we so choose to do so at a later time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Go to Ms. Villarreal and then Ms. Thompson.
Okay. My concern is always the money issue, and we're looking at a $495 million budget. Have we built in anything for inflationary pressures or the fact that we're doing tariffs and things like this, and this could ultimately kick us in the backside? What have we done?
Very good question, if I may answer that. Absolutely. When the subcommittee members, a subject matter expert, brought to me some prices, that was the first question that we asked. Let's evaluate. Let's talk. And the prices that they received was from vendors, trusted vendors that are by board or there are approved vendors, and they provided actual costs for today's value. And I said, no, we're not. We need to add for inflation. We need to add for contingencies, because some of these projects might be low-hanging fruit. It can be initiated and purchased immediately once the funding is available. Other projects are going to take a while to design, to determine the scope of work. And during that time of planning stage, something might have tariffs, some inflation. We do not know. So yes, to answer your question, we went ahead and added a contingency factor for an unknown into each of those. Some of the items I did not apply because money is short, so we have to be methodical and we have to be logical and we have to be careful that we are not too protective and too cautious, putting too much money on a budget, on a project, that we eliminate other projects because we were too careful, we were too cautious. So it is a balancing act, and it requires experience, it requires knowledge, it requires communication between the subject matter experts as to what is that you need. So the answer is yes.
And my second question, you said there's a particular program that it can be added to the cameras, or some, if that's what I'm what you just said, that at a later time.
Well, that was on the integrated PA systems.
Right, okay, so my question is this: if this is something that we're considering at a later time, why are we considering it at a later time? If this is something that could be a safety issue, you know, why are we not thinking about that in today's, you know, why are we thinking about, oh, well, later on, it may be a lot more expensive later on, and if it's available, why aren't we considering it now?
It was just something that Paul put together and started with the PA systems first because we had a lot of issues that we needed to address with the PAs. And so he focused on that part first and then, but took into consideration of the enhancements that we could add possibly down the road if that was something the district wished to do.
I mean, would it add a lot of value at this, is it something that, or is it something you can even discuss in open session?
Well, I think I don't have enough information on the integration of what other it's capable of doing, but that was something that Paul was in charge of, and then we do some research and be able to get back to you and answer more specifically of what that would look like.
Yep.
And if I could add,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
each subcommittee, as Jorge alluded to, had a budget that they were operating within. As things were, when the funding's available, as things go out for bid, you can of course do, this is what we're asking for, and then these are some additional things we want your pricing on. And as things come in, as those bids are received, as we see what the actual pricing is, then we can do some of those add-on pieces. But we have to, again, find that balance between, in order to have the strobe lights, does that mean you're sacrificing police cars? So it's a give and take, and the community members who are at that subcommittee, because I listen to them a lot, they would ask, okay, how many of those things do you need? Because they were trying to, again, balance cost and need. Can I get Wally one more car if we do this instead? Or can I take away a car and do this instead? So there was a lot of conversation and give and take. So it's not that it's not warranted, but what are you giving up in order to get those other potential pieces? Those were the conversations that all of our subcommittees had to make. What are you giving up to do that one more thing?
Oh, understood. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Ms. Thompson, you had a question?
Hey there. How many of our campuses do not have secured entry vestibules right now?
Hold on, I got
Pull out your paper.
my cheat sheets. All right, so we approximately have 31 campuses that still need a secured entry vestibule.
Okay. When it comes down like to all of the, if this happens, what happens to all of our old equipment, old police cars, old PA systems, that kind of stuff? Do we auction it off? Does it just get scrapped?
The police cars we do, we strip them down and replace them and then send them to auction. The PA systems and other equipment, I'm not sure what.
No, Mr. Villarreal, do you want to answer what we do with equipment like that?
Yes. If there's a need or want, we try to auction off anything, any type of equipment. If there's a market for it, we try to auction anything that we pull out of those campuses or anything that we pull off of the chiefs. So yeah, we take a look at everything that gets sent to the warehouse, and we see if it's viable to be able to auction.
Okay.
And if I could add to that, we also sometimes use things for parts.
Okay.
So for example, we have done chiller replacements. Those old chillers are actually housed somewhere in the district that we have already pulled parts from for other systems. So at times, we're able to use parts from older systems. Not always, it's not always compatible, but we definitely have done that with cameras and other things, as we've used parts from older systems to keep those going and maintaining.
Okay. And then my last question was, and this is kind of more of a broad, out of the 495 million, the percentage totals, like for safety and security, it's at 8.4%. Was that determined, those were determined by the committees? Those were not dictated by anyone else?
Correct. That was part of that investment strategy conversation from the beginning all the way through to the end. As they were coming up with the dollar amount, they were also coming up with how to distribute that dollar amount across the 5 different categories, plus how much they would want to set aside for contingency and management. So those percentages were absolutely defined by the committee through that process.
Okay, that's all. And before I forget, thank you to the committee who served.
So on the number 9, parking lot security lighting, I think I've always been confused about that. I drive by elementary and middle school and high schools every time I leave my house. It's always dark. Are we going to use them? Talk to me about that.
Okay, so what that is we're going to take our existing lights that we have now, and we're going to replace them with LED lighting. So we're not adding any new lighting, but what we're doing is just replacing the existing. We have the base, and so now we're going to use a new lighting structure that actually be able to expand further out into the parking lot where it's more visible. And so, or replace the lighting on the exterior of the building to a more efficient LED lighting that's brighter and be able to have more visibility at nighttime.
So right now, what we have is just turned off at night. It's dark. All the schools are dark.
Yeah, I don't know if the lightings are on timers or if there just needs to be upgraded and replaced so that the lights would work.
We do definitely have timers on our exterior
Okay.
lights. But then they also don't cast a very wide lighting net, so to speak. And so the LEDs throw more light.
So I was looking at the list and to Ms. Thompson's question about the police vehicles, what is our current fleet?
Our current fleet, we have approximately 50 vehicles.
50. And what is the average age of those 50?
They're a lot better now. They're within 10 to 15 years currently, with some new ones that we've ordered over the last 2 years, and then have some on order now that will be more recent.
May I add something?
Yes.
Mr. Byer? When I took over as superintendent, I took a look at the white fleet, which is not just police cars, but the other vehicles we use. And at that time, the average age of a vehicle, I believe, Ms. Lackhorn, was 17.9 years old. The oldest vehicle we had out there was 34 years old, I think, or 36. And so Chief was one of those. In fact, I saw as Ms. Chancellor and her team would post some stuff. Oftentimes I saw community members making a lot of comments about get them new vehicles because they're driving around with them, the paint's peeling.
Yep.
I mean, they really are. And so our white fleet has been a focus of ours for a while now on trying to
And I know
address.
we've approved some over the last,
Yes.
whatever, 6 months to a year. And so I assume this is roughly just a little more than half of our fleet that we're trying
Yes,
to
it
replace.
is. We've, in the last, with this and then the last 2 years will be pretty much half. And the vehicles that we're ordering, we're not able to replace, we're not replacing vehicles. Basically, what we're doing is filling the holes of vehicles that are no longer serviceable.
Got it.
And so we did without. So essentially, I'm just replacing the ones that have already exceeded their lifespan and we've already gotten rid of them.
Sure. For the project number 3, which is the upgrade existing 3,600 analog cameras, I assume that this is minus the couple of pilot programs that we approved.
Yes,
in the
these are
last year.
just the number of cameras, analog cameras we have left in the district.
Okay,
This is not counting the ones that have already been upgraded or replaced.
got it, okay. And I think my last question with safety and security are what projects did not make this list that were that were not on, that did not make the cut, that were either right on the cusp that we had to
These
decide?
are all, they all made it.
They all made it, so
Yeah,
this was.
all the
your
ones
list.
that Paul and I presented to the committee, they were all within budget that we were able to fund.
Okay, I think I misunderstood your initial statement that you provided them and the committee.
Yes, these are the, yes, and these are the ones that
But
we
these are all
provided.
of them.
But I will state that originally, on a couple of the projects for the district-wide, PA systems and the secured entry vestibules, originally, we did not cover all the campuses. But with the amount of money in the projects that we had selected and the pricing that Jorge was able to provide, we were able to take specific number of campus and be able to upgrade the entire district to make them all consistent across the board.
Good deal. Ms. Cox?
Just have one quick question. The move from analog to digital, will that make it easier if a video of a student or whatever needs to be pulled?
1,000%.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. Thank you.
Other questions for Chief or Mr. Lyons? We'll get you to speak, Mr. Lyons.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen of the
He
board.
hesitates.
This is Mr. Dan Lyon, the new Chief of Safety and Security, just so you know. He hasn't been able to speak this evening, but he's new, he's learning, but he's been learning all sorts. He's been meeting with Paul about some of why we picked what we did, so.
Ms. Landry, you have some questions?
I just have one question, really. So back to the question that was asked earlier about the, where was it? The vegetables for the schools, and I think, Chief, you had answered how many we needed. Do we have an itemization of that need anywhere? I know this packet has a breakdown of the other projects by school and by district, but none of the safety projects seem to have a breakdown of what schools and.
Yeah, we didn't provide a list of the ones that had or the ones that did not. We just added up the total number that we needed to outfit either with the vestibule or the parking lot upgrades or the BA systems.
And Ms. Landry, again, I can tell you from speaking to Paul for 2 years, his hesitancy in supplying a list like that would be potentially letting the world know where they weren't and would pose a safety hazard.
And I understand that,
Does that
but
make
to the
sense?
extent that we don't have that risk,
we can
is that
visit.
something that
Yeah,
we would
we-
have for the voters to, because I believe we have to itemize.
Yeah, we're gonna have to somehow present that in a way that people know where they're going, but that it's not a one big, large list. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I had, thank you.
One comment I want to make about the vestibules, and please correct me if I'm wrong, every single one of them is so different, and the cost was so different. Like Johnson High School is, you walk in and you're out in the middle of, the building. So the cost of that is much more expensive than the cost of one that just requires one small wall. It was very interesting to me to see the difference in cost of each of the campuses that need them.
And for somebody with your experience in being in the district, to have that recognition that things are so vastly different, I think for our community and our taxpayers, it'd be very important for them to see that as well.
Any other questions on this particular topic? Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Ms. Caldwell or Jorge?
President Byers, can I proceed to the next?
Proceed.
Excellent. I'd like to invite Mr. Arteaga, Dean, Christie, and Marcos up to the front. And I would like to recognize that Patsy Esterline, unfortunately, was not feeling well. She wanted to be here, but she was at just about every, if not, subcommittee meetings. So, Patsy, thank you for your service. The technology subcommittee evaluated 37 projects, and from 37 projects, I selected 28 based on the following criteria. They had 5 categories: the time frame, is it mandated by the state? Is it what's the operational impact, and how does it impact the student? Does it have a high impact, and what is the investment score? Whether it's a high investment or low investment. Each of those criteria, subcategories, had evaluation that the committee determined based from computer labs, upgrading the computer labs, replacing technology devices, network technology, the ERP system, voice over IP. And I would like to ask the subcommittee members to be attentive to any questions, to provide questions to their answers, or answers to their questions.
Good evening. My name is Christy Ramsey, and I sit on the Technology Subcommittee with my colleagues Dean Arteaga, and sitting in for Marcus Sorolla is Lisa Mecki. We mostly discussed projects that needed replacement of an aging fleet or system, as well as what we've done in the district to stretch out the life of our technology. So hopefully we will be able to answer your questions tonight related to technology.
I think the big one I would have right off the bat is the bigger discussion about the one-to-one device and replacing all the Chromebooks and all the iPads, and is that an investment that is sustainable beyond a couple of years and having to come back and do this again? I know we probably have an aging inventory of Chromebooks and iPads, and as a district, how are we using those? Are we using them to replace instruction or to support instruction? And I have a teenager, a high schooler, who probably has her very strong opinions about the Chromebook, and this gets into the legislative discussion about, well, we're probably going to talk about Thursday with cell phones and some other things, but I guess what was that discussion in the committee? I'd like to hear a little bit about that, and even from the district itself. You know, what's our philosophy with technology? What's the go forward path? What's the larger goal with one-to-one devices? And are we using them effectively? And are we training our educators to use them not just as a tool to pass time, but to supplement the instruction in our classrooms?
Yes, we are using those devices to supplement instruction, also provide assessments to students as well. Speaking to the overall instructional role, I don't know that I'm the best person to answer that question, but definitely the instructional philosophy would be to accelerate the learning. We are providing that training to teachers that does include screen time, active and passive screen time, and what that looks like in your lesson plans. Technology as the accelerator and not the replacer. So.
Do we have anybody who might want to speak to the long-term, I guess the long-range strategy of this? And I mean, we're talking about $19+ million.
Yeah, one thing, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Jarrett, but I want to remind you that by law, all STAR testing and end of course is online. Like, so right there, like, we've got to make sure we have enough devices, because that is mandated. There is no longer paper pencil. That's not an option.
Do we do the STAR testing on iPads or Chromebooks?
Yes, ma'am, we do. All of our tests are done on some type of device. Typically, it is a Chromebook for us. In fact, many of our campus folks were nervous when devices were being distributed home for kids, because the fear was there wouldn't be enough devices on campus once testing occurred. So yes, all tests are done online, whether that's MAP testing or STAR testing. So that's part of the process. And to Ms. Ramsey's point, I think what they've been really working on, and we've talked a lot about, is that the computer is not a teaching tool. It is a device that is supposed to enhance the learning. And so what we're trying to do is help our teachers learn how to use it more effectively and efficiently, and not a babysitter. And I think that's some of the fear with technology, and her team has really been working to help people leverage the technology in a more beneficial way versus just a tool to, I guess, tinker around with more so.
Do we supply them with a keyboard as you guys do with us? Do they have the keyboard to go with it?
Yes, ma'am. The Chromebooks come all together, so it's a keyboard and the screen. And so by law also that students can take devices home with them as well, especially if they're, I believe if it's EcoDis, is that correct, Christy? We had a grant that they can take devices home?
Yes.
Yeah. So that way, some students that don't have devices can actually check them out as well.
Well, I'm just kind of concerned because if they're doing this, I know how difficult it is sometimes to manage one of these and work on one of these. And I usually throw my hands up in the air and go, I'm going to my desktop. So if we're doing something as important as STAR testing, it seems to me that I'm concerned about
I
it.
will just tell you the difference between us, because I'm gonna put me in there and them.
This is true.
They're digital natives. They don't see the problems that you and I have, which is why when I call tech support, I call my 21-year-old, she immediately fixes it for me.
This is true. Okay, yes, point taken.
And
I
Ms.
gotcha.
Ramsey, all of the folks that come over to solve, and Dean, I'm pretty sure they could all be my son or daughter, because they're that young.
And I would say, I know with technology, we're always chasing our tail with technology because it's changing on an hourly basis. And so I understand we're in a position where we have to, I just want to make sure we're thinking through, you know, what this is. And especially with STAR testing, that was a point I did not think about, that we have to have this available to people. But
Yeah, and
just
I-
even the infrastructure with fiber lines and Wi-Fi and everything, I mean, it's a massive infrastructure, so.
Yes, that it is. Dean and I have met and talked about those exact types of issues.
Yes, sir.
About making certain as we go over time that we have the bandwidth that we need to do the things that we need to do, that he has the ability, for those of you that were able to attend leadership, and inside of that auditorium, I said, are we gonna have any problems? And he goes, no, we were able to switch off certain areas to make certain that that area was able to take the bandwidth. So the system that they have, that's as good as I can explain it, Dean, is a pretty sophisticated system, and they're always looking at making certain that it stands up and that we have redundancy within it.
Absolutely. Ms. Shelton, you had a question?
I think Ms. Landry was
Ms. Landry,
first.
sorry, the couple's in the way.
So the Chromebooks that are given to the students to take home, are those the same? So if I take my Chromebook home, am I also bringing it back to do my STAR test on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so those are one and the same? Okay, thank you.
Is there an opportunity for us to lease versus purchase the technology?
The opportunity is there to explore. We, as a district, have not done that in the past, right? But we could definitely take a look at what that would look like over 4 to 5 years and what the cost differential would be.
Would you please, is this the time when I can ask for things? I'd like us to consider that,
Sure.
because technology changes so quickly that by the time we spend $19.8 million, as soon as we buy it, it's obsolete. So if we can lease it, and we could almost get Apple and Dell against each other, right, to support us getting them at a better price.
Absolutely. We traditionally buy Chromebooks, which last for about 10 years. So you purchase one in 2019, it should last you until 2029. Sometimes that is how many kids have been on that particular Chromebook, or the life of that Chromebook. But with a Chromebook and an iPad, we get a little longer life than we do out of a Windows machine.
Understood.
Yeah.
Can you bring us back something on what leasing looks like?
Sure can.
And then the second thing is we've got $600,000 in monitors, replacing monitors. Why would a monitor, it's just a screen through which we make the picture bigger. Why would we need to replace those?
I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
So in my packet, it's instructional and network technology is the header. So it's the third page. I think they have them in front of you.
Got it.
And this is line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the fifth line, or the third line under instructional technology. Number 5, total weight is 216.
Replacement of desktops, so PCs, the actual unit itself, as well as a monitor. We keep our monitors in the district for 12 to 15 years. The particular monitors we would be replacing are 12 years old.
how many desktop computers do we have versus laptops versus Chromebooks? And who's using these desktops?
So looking at that line that you're referring to is campus office staff. This would be your front office staff, your receptionists. This is not student computers. We only purchase the desktops and the monitors for the office staff. We probably have approximately 5,000 laptops for our teachers, administrators, counselors, nurses, librarians. And we probably have a smaller number of desktops and monitors. The number specifically, I don't have right now in my head.
I'd love to
But-
see them.
Sure.
Thank you. And then on line 10, the teacher amplification system, is that the microphone that they often wear?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me what percentage of our teachers use those amplification systems?
I can't tell you specifically, but I do know that when we sat in the subcommittee, that many of the principals that sat on that subcommittee wanted that device to be renewed, refreshed. The last time that was done was 2010.
I would love to know how many we have in place right now and how many of our teachers actually use them. This is $4.4 million. And so I am all for it. I've seen a teacher use them and it's great, but I haven't seen many teachers use them. My scope is limited, I recognize. So I'd love to know how many do we have? How old are they? How many teachers are using them?
Absolutely, I'll try to gather that information for you.
I have two more and then I'll turn off my mic. Line 13, our Raptor scanner system. Can we not just upgrade the software? Can they not just?
No, the actual hardware that attaches to the machine has to be upgraded
Got
with
it.
the software.
Excellent, okay. And then number 16, district data storage system replacement.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
is that?
That's our actual hard drives where we store all our documents, all the images that we produce throughout the entire district.
Where are hard drives located?
The actual hard drives and the whole systems are down the hallway on this first floor. It's a huge data center.
So we have our own data center, we don't use the cloud at all?
We use some cloud, but most of the, I would say mission critical data is actually on site.
Are we redundant in the cloud?
Oh, yes, ma'am, we are. We have some of our off-site. We also have a recovery center over at one of our high schools.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Landry?
So I think Ms. Shelton and Mr. Byer have said it a couple of times, and we've had the question come up. I think for all of this information, it'd be very helpful to have a life expectancy for the items that we're replacing, and then the number of items we have on hand and the current life of those items. And that's probably for everything in this packet.
I just have one more question. How many of the Chromebooks are damaged every year, do you know? And do we fix them here on site?
We do fix them on site. We pick and pull from damaged devices. We will break apart a Chromebook for screens and keyboards. We probably have 10 to 12% damage in the district that we get through our help desk system.
Okay, and who's responsible for paying for the parts and things like that? Is it the student, or is it, let's say they break it, and it's obvious damage, who is responsible for that?
If they break it on purpose or throw it down, or that is determined by the campus administration, and they will pursue that with parents. As for the damage that comes through the help desk system, we take care of that through the technology services system.
And do we get a price break on, parts or or do we just take it off of this one that's no longer functioning and then we snap it on this one? Is that what we're doing, or do we actually have to
We do that as
order?
much as we can,
Okay.
for sure. Although sometimes we have to buy parts such as batteries, specific screens for particular Chromebooks. We are not replacing devices that are older, right? We're starting to look at the cost of the part versus the cost of the actual Chromebook and the life expectancy of it. Sometimes that does not match, and so we will break apart that Chromebook for parts for the next one.
But do we get our parts wholesale? That's
We
what I'm
do,
trying.
we do,
okay.
yes.
All right.
And Ms.
good.
And
Villarreal.
we go with the vendor that gives us the best price.
Okay, good.
And Ms. Villarreal, to add to your point, we do have our families who elect to take a computer home. They take out insurance, and we self-insure ourselves, so they give us the fee, and that helps offset the cost to repair when there's damaged devices. And so that is done.
Okay, good. I'm feeling better about this. I was wondering about that. Yes.
Ms. Cox?
Hey, I just have a question about the print shop expenses. So does replacement of the printing and finishing equipment, does that mean quicker turnaround time and the ability to have, to handle more business? This is number 26 on that page, down the bottom.
My name is Phil Semigel. I'm the Director of Document Management Print Services. And yes, it will make it more efficient to produce items. Currently, our equipment is aging. It's electronic, a lot of it, 10 to 12 years, some older. And since the industry is moving in a manner to upgrade equipment and not hire people, we're in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it will make it more efficient.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think Ms. Chidgey had a question, and then we'll get back over here.
Well, I just want to comment on something Ms. Shelton said. I don't want anybody to think the amplification systems are not very, very incredibly effective. They're old and they're broken, and that's why they're not being used. When they're used, they are highly effective to enhance instruction. If you've got a little student over in the side and she's reading or he's reading and he doesn't have it on, the rest of the room can't hear it. And many of the students hear it so much better, they comprehend so much better when it's on. So it's not that they're not important and they're not being used. I don't want us to leave thinking that. I think they're incredibly important, and research supports that. That's why we purchased them to begin with.
So then, to my ask, how many are broken? Because I agree with you. I've seen it used. I think they're phenomenal. I just have not seen it used fully. So if it's that they're broken, then that's something different, right? Than if people just don't use them.
Yeah, Ms. Shelton, I want to, there's a book I read a long time ago called The Planetary Culture of Schools. And basically what it says is a teacher is in the orbit of her own or his own once they move into that room. Whether they want to use it or not becomes a matter of choice. The expectation is to have them, because what I can tell you from it is when you use that every day, that the way those amplification devices work is all four corners hear at the same volume. That is, if somebody is standing in the front. Some people, however, and I'll give you a real one on why a teacher stopped using it. She accidentally left it on and went to the restroom right outside of her classroom. And this happened to me as a principal, and she said, I'll never use it again. And so just because sometimes we think it's just out of sheer noncompliance, there's other reasons that people don't use them, but they should be, because that's why they were purchased. And again, there was a lot of research behind it. They're still doing it today, especially in a lot of our schools where, kids are spread out and they're in the back corners, and if you're at the front, you don't have a loud voice, you're not going to be heard, right? But that's something that we're always working on, and I know that we encourage to do it, but when they close the door and we're not in there, whether they choose to do it or not,
I
don't know.
Dr. Micah, I'm willing to disagree and commit, but it's $4.4 million. So I think the research, to Ms. Chidgey's point, does suggest that it is powerful and a useful tool. And when the teacher closes the door, they have complete autonomy. So if we're going to spend $4.4 million on something, it needs to be used. And if it's not gonna be used, then maybe we spend $2.2 million, right? And it's not to litigate this, I see my president looking at me, not to litigate this. My actual question was for you, and I forgot your name, I'm so sorry.
Phil Semigel?
Mr. Phil. For the print shop.
Yes.
Do we make money at the print shop? So do we outsource to other people and charge for that?
We do. We do primarily staff members, parents, clubs at the campuses. They'll bring their jobs in. Our philosophy is to bring everything to the district and outsource very little. We can't do it all, so we probably outsource 5% of all the work.
I'm sorry, I asked my question incorrectly. What I meant to ask is, can I knock on your door and say, would you print this for me and you charge me for it so that the print shop becomes a revenue generating entity?
That's how we operate. Yes, we will.
Okay.
There's matter of fact, I have a friend that used it for a unrelated school district thing. He had a golf tournament for something else and used the print shop to get his signs made. So it is used by others.
Do we have any record of how much that brings in? What
This year, it wasn't as much as we had hoped. I believe it was $17,000. Last year, it was $30,000. But we also do work for other school districts as well. That brought in $81,000.
And do we have anything that shows how that offsets the cost of the?
It goes into the revenue. It's all basically charged the same. There's no real offset, if you will. It's just part of the revenue stream.
Okay.
And it does cover our expenses.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
You're covering yourself.
Yes.
Ms. Thompson, you had a question?
My question are actually about items that were not selected by the committees. And so on page 4, item number 5, it's replacement of Chromebooks at alternative middle school and high school. So those are a lot of times underserved students in the first place. And I know when students go to alternative, I don't know if they're taking their own Chromebook or not, but that is how they're getting their assignments to be compliant with their schoolwork. So I think it's important that if they're not bringing them, they need to be good. Why did the committee scrap that?
The committee scrapped that due to the rubric that we had and the number of students it affected. The number just bumped down to the end, and when we got to the dollar limit, the things below the line just didn't make the cut.
Okay, they're underserved, and so I just want to make sure that if there's some way to, I don't know, maybe Deb, in the end, it'll work out. And then on item number 9, upgrade to campus UPS maintenance and servicing. It says that it's high impact, high investment, but it got cut. What is it and why? It's number 9.
It's the very last item on that
That's
list.
same.
Again, that was a rubric item. We have enough to keep our core systems running and backed up, the big ones that Ms. Shelton asked about. At some of our high schools, at some of our campuses, we can have them stretch a little longer by cannibalizing parts from other ones. It's just a matter
that word.
of the rubric.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Shelton?
Can I do a follow-up to Ms. Thompson's question about the Chromebooks at alternative school? She asked a question she did, that we didn't answer. When students move from their main campus to alternative school, do they take their Chromebook with them?
They do not.
And so what happens to that Chromebook when they go to alternative school?
It stays at their home campus.
And so what do they use, since I think Dr. Micah said it was the law, what do they use to get their assignments when they're alternative schools?
They have a current fleet of Chromebooks at alternative.
I would love to know what we look like in terms of Chromebooks at alternative campuses, what their useful life is, if they are upgradable, as they are, and what the cost would be. I'm assuming the cost would be this what is it?
$145,000.
$145,000. Is that the true cost of replacing? How many of those need to be replaced so that those children would have the same opportunity that the other children have if we're going to replace the other ones in the district?
The conversation as well was about process. So the process could change so that a student was able to take a home campus Chromebook to alternative, or that Chromebook could transfer to alternative to save having to buy another device, since one device was already purchased for that particular child.
So is that a conversation that we're actively having right now, or is that a hypothetical
That was a conversation we had in our committee.
in your committee?
Yes.
Okay,
Sounds like it could be a conversation that needs to be had
post-committee.
in staff and
Yes.
as a district, because that seems to make sense, and I don't know what the limitation is to get it from one campus to the alternative school, but rather than buying duplicate Chromebooks or having outdated Chromebooks for those students, is there a process and a method to get that Chromebook just with them so that they're able to seamlessly get into their assignments? So, seems
Thank you.
logical.
Yes.
The answer to that question is yes, though. I mean, here's the thing. In the past, we were not a one-to-one district. And during the pandemic, we applied for many different grants, which increased our number of devices exponentially as a district. Once that happened, it allowed us to increase access to devices, but also we have to now start thinking about our processes in the sense of efficiency and effectiveness. To your point, if a device is purchased and we have 56,000 kids and a device is purchased for every kid, then the device should follow the child wherever they go. And that's something that we have to work on internally to make use of our resources instead of expanding for more resources.
So is that something we're committed to working on and giving us some feedback or a plan? Thank you.
Any other questions on the technology aspect? Before we move on, I think we have a quick update about the lease versus purchase. He moves quickly.
Mr. Lee, if you would come on up, because he's sitting in the back listening to y'all's discussion. Can you talk about the lease of things like that?
Absolutely, and for the record, Matt Lee with the law firm Norton Rose Fulbright, we serve as the district's bond counsel. Ms. Shelton, you asked a question to the table up here about looking into maybe leasing some of the Chromebooks or some of the other projects that are being submitted. What the bond election proposal, in the event that the board decides to call for one, would be asking for these projects to be financed with an interest in sinking fund, INS tax rate. Any lease would be done on the maintenance and operations side of the equation, so it wouldn't be the subject of this bond election. It would be a completely different statute, different requirement, and so that would either be maintenance tax note or a PPFCO or a lease obligation that would be payable from the district's M&O side of the tax rate versus the INS. It wouldn't be a part of this bond if, in the event that, you know, the district were to entertain leasing certain projects versus submitting them to the voters.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd still like to know the cost difference between leasing versus owning, because it may make sense for us financially that we put it on the M&O side, right? Maybe, maybe not, depending on what it is and what kind of deal we could get. But
ma'am.
thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Any other questions on this topic? All right, thank you all very much for participating. Jorge, continue.
Thank you, Doctor. I would like to recognize Lisa Mackey. I did not acknowledge her instead of Marcos. Thank you very much. I would like to call forward the extracurricular. I'd like to jump over the M&O and go into the extracurricular. I'd like to invite Jay Jovan and Julie Shore up. They represented the extracurricular committee, and the facility steering committee spokesperson is Gwen Wilson, who was very instrumental as well in assisting the committee. The committee evaluated 64 projects. This is the second highest work by the committee to evaluate 64 projects based on the rubric that they selected. Had the 4 categories: investment criteria, time frame, economic opportunity, and recruitment retention. I'd like to note on category 1 and 2, they added a weight multiplier. In other words, of the 4 categories, both 1 and 2, the investment and time frame had more weight, more importance, and they added the multiplier of 2. Whether it was for safety, code, whether it was compatibility, or was it a program improvement under the investment criteria. They evaluated projects from mechanical systems, Josh Davis in the natatorium, high schools, middle schools, bleacher projects, LED lightings for the sports stadium lightings, and tennis courts improvements. So I'd like to hand it over to the committee. And Jay, I'd like to recognize, welcome on board. Coach Parker is probably enjoying his retirement, and he's not here tonight, but Jay has taken over the reins and with tremendous leadership. Thank you, Jay. Julie and Jay.
Sure. Good evening. So for the fine arts portion of this, the way we figured out what we were going to bring to the table was that we did an assessment of every single facility in our district from our elementary music programs to our middle school programs and our high school programs. We talked to every single director. We've been working on this, honestly, though, for 4 or 5 years, just to make sure that we were looking at spaces and putting in work orders for things that needed to be addressed, to see how we could help campuses when we did. So that's how every single item on our fine arts list was chosen, was talking to our directors and going and walking the spaces and working with facilities maintenance and working with our engineers in the district to address issues that we have had that have come up in some of our fine arts spaces.
Well, I've been working on this for 4 weeks. And I've learned a lot. And I've really been picking the brains of a lot of people with all these projects. And I've been able to learn a lot of the why and the what and the who, and try to give you all as much feedback as possible as we go through this.
Very good. Thank you all for being here for questions. Not done yet. Ms. Shelton, you're first up.
I'll start. First, I want to recognize Ms. Gwen Wilson from SMD2, who is an amazing volunteer. Thank you so much for being here and for your time. Help me understand number 2. I'm on page 15. The video board. I used to, in a former life, I worked for Pepsi-Cola, and we used to buy these for schools. Why is it that we cannot get Coke, Pepsi, HEB to get us a video board?
Well, what I'll share is, why can't we? I know that currently we have sponsors involved. The video board that we have at Heroes, there are sponsorships that we were helped to use to purchase that. Now, of course, those funds were used there with this video board because there's been so many issues with it from what I've learned about it, that now we're at the point to where we need to do something with it kind of early on to mediate whatever situations that we have with it.
The bottom line is, Coach Parker has been looking at these, and while he has been able to go out and sell different sponsorships, no business that has been approached has ever stepped forward and said, "Hey, we'll give you $650,000." Like, and it's just, and you can see that all over the place, is that they want to make small investments, and those days of kind of wanting to fund large projects are getting tougher and tougher to do. They want to make some more modest things. But
Okay.
I think all the spots are sold on that board. That's been a revenue generator. That's how we replaced the one over at Hero Stadium, is through that type of thing.
Yeah.
So we've been addressing that over time. This is just one that it's limping along, because when we replaced the one at Heroes, we took all the parts, moved them over to Comalander Stadium, and we're using it to keep it running.
I just want to say, Ms. Caldwell, hats off to your maintenance team, because they are Bob the Builders. So thank you for that. I'm looking at item number 10. Help me understand the tennis swim center storage. Do we not currently have storage? Do we need more storage? Why is this $1.2 million important to spend?
So the need for it is, so right now at the tennis center, all of their equipment is stored in the facility. And so it's just when you walk in there, all their balls and different equipment is stored there. And so with the pool, a lot of their equipment is stored in an old beat up shed in the back. And so what they need is they need storage to house all their equipment. Some of the tennis storage as well is in a mechanical room, which that's probably not up to code that we keep it in there. So that's why they have to bring it out and put it in the main lobby area. So putting this facility there will meet the needs of tennis and swim right there in between both the facilities there.
And that's more in, thank you, but I'm looking at some of the projects that didn't make, right? Like resurfacing, resanding some floors. Are we building a new storage facility? Is that what this is? Or, yes, you're shaking your head, yes. Okay, it's a new build, right? Okay, and that's more important than some of these resurfacing of floors and video systems. I'm just artificial turf for the high school, artificial baseball turf on the projects that didn't make.
I'm going to pass this on to Jorge or Deb to answer this.
I was going to say, just based on what I heard earlier, I think the committee ranked certain things by the rubric that they used to determine which we're going to make and which didn't. So to answer your question, is one more important than the other? I don't think one is more important than the other. I think based on the budget and how people ranked it was the way it turned out.
Okay, thank you.
The resurfacing of the floors was being done district-wide anyway on like a rotating basis. So they were already taking care of the floors throughout, each year. And according to the other director, according to what he said, it was a matter of that could be taken care of with a different budget. Because, they were able to take care of that, so it wouldn't necessarily come up on here.
I have a question. How big is this storage facility for 1.2 million? How big is this thing that you're, proposing that needs to be built for a storage facility?
Jorge?
Yes.
Can I pass that to you?
Absolutely. It'll probably be a 2,500 square foot facility. It'll be a pre-engineered metal building, but something that looks
That's way
aesthetic.
too high. I have a construction company, that's way too high.
And I would
1.2
tell you,
million?
Ms. Villarreal, it's not high.
No,
I'm
for a 2,000 square foot building?
I'm dealing with it right now, my own profession, and that is not out of the range of a possibility.
That is,
I understand your concern, but I'll tell you, it's not too far out of the realm of discussion.
But again, Ms. V, and I think you brought it up earlier, some of these may be a little bit higher because we're trying to estimate what things because I'm pretty certain if something were to, a bond were to be issued or voted on by you all and then ultimately approved by the voters, I don't know that that's a project you're starting on immediately anyway.
Yeah.
So you got to think about 3 years from now, what does that cost look like? And if it came in cheaper, great. That money then just moves to some other project within that's been picked that may run a little bit more.
I mean, we could build just a house for that and store. I mean, just a giant, house with a slab and, that I'd like to really see, that doesn't make any sense to me. That just sounds way out there. I'd like to really see the fabrication, costs and everything else and what you're using and to justify that. I'm kind of with Ms. Shelton right now. That sounds a little bit, does anybody have any, do you have a breakdown on the costs on that thing?
At this point, it is a budget based on several factors, like Dr. Micah mentioned, inflation. Also take into consideration bringing in utilities, bringing in the electrical systems that currently don't exist. Talking about adding new electrical, plumbing, because we will provide some plumbing, because there'll have to be an office there in the building. So the mechanical systems to keep it warm during the winter months and cool to protect the equipment. So there's other factors that factor into play, the construction cost, as you're well very familiar, plus permitting and licensing that the city will be charging for. But
that's
I'll
the
be
same
glad
with
to provide.
housing. It's the same with housing. A 2,500 square foot building, if you're looking at a house, doesn't cost that. So, I mean, we could do even something that's on the line of just a residential home would be a lot less than that.
But-
That's why I'd like to
yeah.
see the, you know,
commercial.
fabrication costs on that.
Jorge, correct me if I'm wrong, and I could be, but when it comes to us building things in our world, there's a lot of different regulations and stuff that we have to follow other than traditional building, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Am I correct in that? Because I know there are all sorts of things, whether it's fire codes and ADA and all those other things that we have to match, that I don't necessarily have to match at my house. Am I correct in that?
That is
You're
correct.
talking about a metal building, is that correct? Is there anything specific to this metal building that would cause those costs to go through the roof? Because that is really, the square footage on that just doesn't justify it.
Well, you have to factor in a fire lane to get to the actual building in the event of a fire. The fire department is going to have to
I think
provide.
Ms. Caldwell has a.
Yeah, let us itemize that for you with all the different pieces, other than just putting a metal building down, all the other things that we have to do to prepare that building for occupancy as a public entity. So let us break that down for you and provide that to you at another time.
I would appreciate that because that just isn't it's not computing. So
And
I appreciate that.
And I know me saying it isn't gonna make it better, but that is in line with costs that I've just seen in the last month.
For a metal building?
For a metal building. Correct.
Is it just because of inflation?
It's the steel, it's all the things that Jorge was saying with the infrastructure that has to go to it. The square foot cost it's gotten astronomical for these things.
My mind is blown. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And also keep in mind the tennis and swim center are also revenue generators, and so they do bring in outside groups. It's not just servicing our school district. I mean, it is, but between swim events and tournaments and competitions and just regular league use, that kind of thing, those are used very, very heavily.
Well, I understand that, but is there maybe an alternate? If steel prices are so high, can we use a CMU block, something like that, versus, steel? Is there an alternative that we're not paying that? Is there something else we can do? Are we just stuck in that particular lane where we just have to do that particular type of building? That's what I'm asking. Is there an alternative to this? Because I know steel prices are insane and they go up weekly. So, but is there something else we can do? So, anyway,
Sure,
I'll get
we'll be
off.
happy to bring you some costs. And again, we're looking at longevity as well, something that will last so that we're not bringing this back as a need for replacement or repair. So we will bring that to you as a line item.
I appreciate it. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Mr. Byer?
Yes, Michelle.
I really appreciate the work of this committee, and I know you guys spent a lot of time on this. I want to understand the flexibility we have with moving things from not selected to selected. And as I look at the not selected page, and I remember conversations that I've had with people about safety, the fact that we have a lot of turf that needs to be replaced and that's noted as current, that did not make the project list. I'm just concerned about if we're gonna have children playing on those fields, and those fields we're saying are unsafe today because it's saying current, which means that the turf has outused its usefulness or its lifespan. I'd like to know, is there an opportunity for us to move some things around? Because we have a couple on the considered page that are 1 to 3 years out, but then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like 12 or 13 things that we did not pick up that are needed currently. And I know you don't have enough money to do it all. I recognize that. But if there's an opportunity, Mr. Byer, committee, for us to maybe consider those things that would be a safety issue, I would appreciate that.
Do you have anything in
Specifically,
specifically that you're looking
and
at?
specifically only because I don't know who I was talking to, and they talked about turf being a risk once it had outlived its usefulness. I'm looking at on page 16, 80. I'm sorry, that's not the right number. I apologize. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I don't care about the stands. I mean, I care about them, but
Ms. Shelton,
23.
those aren't turfed right now. That's why.
Okay.
They are not turfed. So
This
what
would be
that,
bad.
what that committee was looking at is a potential to turf them.
Got it.
Rather than leave them grass.
Understood.
So if you look over on the selection, and you'll see item 6, replace artificial turf at all high school football/soccer fields. That is replacing an existing turf field.
Okay.
Replace artificial turf at Heroes and Blossom. That is one. So that is what it is. Now, item number 8, artificial turf at competition softball field would be new turf, because that would match up with the turf that we use on baseball fields for boys.
Okay.
That would match it with girls.
So, but what you're saying, what I hear you saying is, though, is on page 15, number 11, BAC baseball artificial turf, that does not exist right now.
I'm sorry, which one is that?
I'm on page 16.
Page 16.
Number
correct.
11.
Number 11.
BAC,
Blossom baseball art, correct.
That does
is
not exist.
That is a grass field as it
Yes.
is,
Okay.
stands today.
And so all of these are grass fields. It's not a safety
Correct.
issue.
So when
Understood.
you look at
Okay.
number 12, high school baseball fields, artificial turf,
Mhm.
each one of our high schools has a baseball field that is grass right now.
Okay.
That, they were considering whether to turf it or not.
Understood. Okay. Then I withdraw my request. Thank you.
Ms. Cox?
All right, thank you guys for all your hard work on the committee. It's a very impressive effort that you've all made for all of us. I guess this is number where we talk about the permanent structures at high schools for the band marching areas. So are those kind of like the canopy type structures, the cloth canopy type structures that go out on the band pads or wherever the kids are practicing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
But just to clarify, it would be perimeter shade, not trying to cover the entire band marching area. We're not looking to put a giant shade structure across the entire marching pad.
So
This is
an area-
perimeter so
I
that
see.
when they take their water break, I'm sorry.
They
to
have
interrupt.
somewhere, no,
They have
that's
somewhere
okay.
to
They
go.
have somewhere to get out of the sun. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Ms. Thompson?
On page 15, it is line number 13, middle school gym floor sanding and resurfacing. We talked about this a minute ago, and it got nixed at the high school level because it's something that just we rotating do. Is that not the same for middle schools?
So from my researching and all that, so it is a need, and they have not been completed in some time, and you may be able to share when that last time was. So looking at the needs, what the committee was looking at, they felt that the middle schools had more of a priority, the committee felt like, versus the high schools. So they needed to decide, okay, what's going to make the cut and what's not at this particular moment.
Okay, but is it, so we don't sand and finish those floors on a rotating basis at middle schools?
Right, they normally do the high schools, not the middle schools.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. The next one is line number 14. So over at the sports park, we do not currently have a PE building. And that is, we lease that property. What is our lease agreement? I forgot what that is.
So I believe it's a 50-year lease.
What year are we
Right.
on?
Dan, isn't it a 50-year?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a 50-year with the option to re-up it for another 50 years.
Okay.
So what year we're on, what are we on, maybe year 8, 9, something like
Okay,
that
so-
at most?
I think we're in year 8. I think it was 17 when we purchased
I
it.
think we're around year 8, so.
Okay. There's not a risk of us putting in that building and then losing.
We have a
lease.
50-year lease.
Okay. My question about that PE building is, will it just be truly just a building, or will it have seating inside, like to move the PE showcase? Because that's so tight. Like, is it going to have that kind of space, or it's just a gym?
It was said that all of the PE equipment for the district is stored with the maintenance equipment presently. They don't have a building or place for the PE equipment, so everything for the entire district is stored with the maintenance equipment, and they're wanting to be able to put that equipment separate instead of storing it where it is.
Okay, so it's not a gym at all, it's just PE
No.
storage, okay.
So if you drive around the back, Ms. Thompson, if you go into the sports park and go all the way to the back, there is a ton of equipment all in there. Some of it is outside, some of it is shoved into the facility and maintenance area. There is no place to store the rock wall.
It's just out.
All the different stuff that we don't give everybody that we rotate around needs a home to put it in.
Yeah. Okay, that was really it. Thank y'all.
Any other questions about extracurricular while we have the folks here? I want to thank you for the MacArthur concession upgrade. I will say that as a personal experience. That's and that community definitely appreciates that. So, thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Jorge.
Thank you, Mr. Bosch. I'd like to move on forward to the facility subcommittee. Invite Barry Lanford, Phil Steiner, and subcommittee spokesperson Shelley Chachin. They were very instrumental in evaluating 19 projects and selected 15 based on the following criteria. The criteria that the rubric that they selected was based on 4 categories. Again, student impact, investment, school building comparability, and the recruitment and retention factors. And they all each had its own subcategory. They evaluated from new kitchen serving line at Coker Elementary School to a new cafetorium at Larkspur, renovations at PAC, shade structures at the JROTC, very similar to the band, also giving the JROTC program the shade structures, and additional program improvements. I'd like to turn it over to the committee, Phil and Barry. And Sherry, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening. I wanted to elaborate a little bit more about the rubric because it's a little different than most others because we had such a wide array of facilities that we were covering. We were looking at new cafeterias, right? Looking at JROTC, looking at athletics as well as CTE. And so we wanted to make sure that to determine the number of students impacted by the project was important. If there's a return on investment for improving or preserving the program, and to what extent. When it comes to school building comparability, it was what do other schools within the district already have, and how does the current state of it compare, and taking that into consideration all the way through. And then if there's some consideration for recruitment and retention when it comes, if it's a growing program, stable or shrinking program. So we applied that same thing uniformly through all those different categories.
Very good. I was going to ask the first question here about the Littleton gym, and I'm curious where the thought is for the expansion for the additional court that I think is listed here, if I read that correctly.
There's sufficient real estate, President Byers, there at the BAC that we can expand. It'll have to be connected to the facility to be able to utilize existing support facilities, the restrooms and offices. So it'll be an expansion either towards the north or towards the west.
Okay.
It'll be determined.
Okay, I assumed it wasn't going to be in the building because there is no room in the building unless you stack courts on top of each other, but, okay. Ms. Shelton, questions?
3 questions. Line 1 and 2, are those 2 elementary schools, is their enrollment increasing? And by what percent?
So Coker has grown quite a bit, as well as Larkspur. Those are 2 of our larger campuses for enrollment, and they have been going up.
And they serve other programs, if I might add, like dual language as an example. So they are not just serving a traditional K-5, but they are also serving other programs as well. And those kitchens and/or cafeteria space is very undersized in comparison to other campuses of similar age. So for example, we actually went out and witnessed at Larkspur that serving process with that cafeteria, and with that serving line, students are queued in a line for a good amount of time because there's just not enough space to move the volume through. They have to also utilize the stage to sit students. Like 5th grade sits on the stage because the cafeteria itself is too small.
And what happens to the cafeteria when you build a new one? What happens to the existing cafeteria?
So at Larkspur, we can bump out into a parking lot that is adjacent to that. So you're not getting rid of, you are expanding.
Okay. Okay. It says new, so versus expand, which is why I thought we were getting rid of one versus the other. So still on my first question, part C. So then what happens to our parking if we're bumping out into the parking lot? And what does that do for our teachers' ability to have a place to park and visitors?
The parking right now is used by the school nutrition staff. There is a grassy, again, I'm just talking about Larkspur.
Mhm.
There's a grassy rise and some other space, so we can relocate
Okay.
some parking, but it's not used for teachers currently.
Oh, it's not in, okay. So we're
Not at Larkspur. That is just 10 spaces maybe, if I remember correct. I mean, a very small number of spaces, and mainly for the school nutrition staff that we can relocate.
Okay. And then with Coker, we're just changing the way the line is set up? Is that what I'm understanding? We're not expanding the cafeteria, we're just changing
The
setup?
kitchen.
Okay.
The kitchen expansion with a new serving line, yes. So the kitchen will get more space to prep the work, to store the items, to have more room to prepare those meals.
Okay.
And then the serving line as well. So you are correct that the cafeteria where students sit is distinctly okay. We
Okay.
would just be touching the back of the house, if you want to think of it that way.
So Coker is not the one where they're sitting on the stage?
That's correct. That's
That's Larkspur,
Larkspur where
okay.
they're sitting on the stage.
Okay. Thank you. Number 5, what is the JROTC shade structures along drill pad associated with? Is that at Roosevelt and Johnson, or is that throughout the district?
It'll be all 7 high schools,
So
all the
this will
JROTC, yes, at all the high schools.
So we're going to be able to do shade at 7 high schools for $650,000?
These are just going to be when the students are, we're not going to cover the entire
Similar to
drill
what you were
net,
saying
correct.
earlier?
To band.
Okay.
Similar to the band
Yeah,
parking
okay.
pads.
Thank you.
for
And those
practice
drill
pads.
pads are significantly smaller than a band marching area. It's a smaller space.
Thank you.
Ms. Thompson?
Ms. Shelton, I just wanted to share with you that I have seen a campus where they had to do construction on a cafeteria, and the students truly ate in classrooms for lunch for a year, so they make it work. And I was thinking about Larkspur in particular. Maybe when the campus was originally built, that cafeteria worked, but the campus itself has expanded. And the same at a lot of our campuses, and so it's the original cafeteria, although the school itself has gotten bigger. Okay, the only question I had, and this is just a selfish question, are the bleachers at Littleton gonna have backs? Like, are we gonna be able to lean back?
We'll have to see how it prices out. That might have to be an add-on.
I mean, these are excellent questions, and believe you me, the first, once we hire the architect, They're going to be looking at the placement of how we're going to expand the improvements and bring to you for your consideration different schematic designs. And those questions where the seats are going to have backs are going to be factored into the budget, and we're going to present this to you. So you'll be making those decisions as the location, how we're going to expand to the north, to the east, to the west, and where is it going to be.
One of the questions I had about the athletic program facilities, I know there were two that didn't make the cut, and they were large ticket items on page 19, where you're talking about replacing the existing soccer complex at Blossom and the NEISD softball complex, which I assumed the discussion was about basically rebuilding those in their entirety for the amount of money that was on there. Was there discussion about it? Because I know some of those can also be revenue generating activities. Did that factor into any of the discussions that if we put an investment in, maybe we can attract more tournaments or more UIL activities, that kind of thing? Was that discussed as any of those? And I know this kind of goes between the facilities and the extracurriculars, so I'm sure there's some overlap, but.
We were more addressing the facility itself, not the extracurricular,
Sure.
and just the cost of it and
Yeah.
the students it affected. I think that's why it dropped off our rubric.
Sure. Okay.
Just because of the number of students.
Okay. And I know on some of the other ones, we're talking about not replacing turf with artificial grass and that kind of thing, and so I can see that. But anyway, I was just curious how that maybe factored into some of those decisions.
President Byer, the cost of these projects would have taken up the majority of our budget. We wouldn't have been able to touch so many other schools and so many other projects that would have affected, so many other students and met our other rubric criteria of, investment and retention and, draw students to our programs.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I think that was really the driving force of our committee.
Sure, understandable.
And they did look at economic opportunity as part of the scoring rubric. So it was received the smaller, it's in that category 2 section. So economic opportunity, that rental piece definitely was something that they discussed.
Just a comment, this is an example of the hard decisions. They did not make these, I was very impressive to watch the discussion, the weighing of it. People didn't get personal about my school or my kid's sport. They really tried to keep the price of this down. It was very conscientious on the committee's part, and night after night after night. So I must applaud you and just say, the cost of those two items that they cut, it'd be great just to put them in, but each of those raises the price so much. So again, thanks to the committee for the hours on this.
Well, I was happy to see that line item 10, which is the upgrades to the Cybersecurity Institute. I think we've been looking at that for 6 years now, and I think speaking of programs that touch a lot of individuals and give us a higher profile as a district in the state, I think that is good money to be spent to finish out that facility and expand that program. Oh, does that mean we're done?
Jason, our screen went black.
Any other questions about facilities?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say,
Ms.
just a thank you to the committee and Mr. Cheney for being my representation there. I know you guys have done a great job, and I just want to say thank you. It doesn't go, it's very grateful. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Move on to the next one as soon as that gets pulled up, but thank you all for being here and answering questions. Here comes.
Thank you, Shelley and Barry and Phil. Really appreciate it. I'd like to move forward now to the
Should we
maintenance
have
and
done this
operation.
during the IT portion?
No? Did I? No?
Yeah. Something logged off the computer.
Did you log on?
You need to log back in. That's what
On your-
that's right here.
Okay. With Dot?
Yeah. Backsplash. And
capital B? It's a case sensitive?
I think it may be,
This one?
mhm. Capital B. Whoa. Hit back. There you go. You should be good now.
Good. Fantastic. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. I'd like to invite Elliot Johnson and Mr. Sam Jones. Sam Jones is the committee spokesperson that oversaw the proceedings for the maintenance and operation. And Elliot Johnson is with the Facility Maintenance and Operations Department with the district. Mr. Jones, if I can put a commercial for you, he is an expertise. You are also a subject matter expert. You are in the general contracting business. So we were very fortunate to have his level of expertise assisting the Maintenance and Operations Subcommittee. They evaluated a total of 1,500 projects. And I have to recognize the excellent work by Gordian Group. They sent a team of engineers to evaluate all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, the roofing systems of all our facilities, as Dr. Micah mentioned. It's just a tremendous amount of facilities. And we needed that wealth of information to be able to understand the current state of our facilities. And they also evaluated 12 non-Gordian projects. These are projects or components of a facility that were not evaluated by the Gordian Group because we wanted to keep their work concentrated on the interior and on the actual building itself and not support facilities like parking lots, playgrounds that are outside the Gordian scope of work. They recommended those projects that consisted of elementary school playgrounds, walking tracks, parking lots, and order abatement at Tejeda. I would like to just focus on first on the non-Gordian group, and they developed two rubrics. The first rubric was for the non-Gordian, and they had 4 categories: the time frame, investment, enrollment, occupancy, as shown on the screen, and student impact. What's not, I don't have a slide for, is for the Gordian projects, but it is included in the last page of your handout. If you turn to the last page of your handout, there is the matrix side by side of all the rubrics for all the different categories from where we started, safety and security, all the way to facilities. And right in the middle of the page, there is the M&O, the non-Gordian projects, and the Gordian projects. That gives you the actual factors that was used for evaluation. I would like to talk about let's talk about the non-Gordian projects first, and then if it is okay with you, President Byers, we will go to the Gordian projects.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Good evening. I appreciate having the opportunity to be here and opportunity to be on the committee. So as George mentioned, we had 2 really rubrics that we put together, the first being the non-Gordian projects. This was a rather smaller list. However, we used the same framework that the Gordian company put together for the Gordian projects. It did require some tweaking, but as you see, our categories are time frame, critical need to number of years out, the investment criteria, whether it was reliability, safety concerns, asset preservation, program improvement, or economic efficiency, enrollment, occupancy, really the impact of that location had on the number of students, and then additionally student impact, which are very similar, but they are distinct in their own categories. So we'll open it up for questions for the non-Gordian portion.
Yes, so this would be the non-Gordian project question. So we're looking at page.
That is page 5.
5, yes. Yes, Ms. Chidgen.
I just need a refresher on 46 elementary campuses for the walking tracks. Are we going to subtract 3 from that, or are we going to do it on the ones that are closed?
The philosophy that we took was that the campuses are still community assets.
what I remember.
We are still going to keep that
Okay.
playground up to date. We're still going to keep that walking track up to date because the community uses those assets. We've actually, communicated with those custodians who maybe have never had to open the gates for a playground before. For example, alternative middle school and high school moving to Clear Spring, that's a new role for them. So we've communicated with them how that procedure will work because these are still assets. So we did not eliminate any of the 3 campuses impacted by consolidation.
Ms. Cox?
I have a couple questions and then a thank you. Thank you very much for including the Tejeda odor abatement. Very thankful for that. I know a lot of kids and teachers will be as well. So can you talk to me a little bit, like the parking lot at Thousand Oaks, it's horrible there because it's just right, the street's right there and the parking lot's right there. Is this something to do with the parking lot that's in the front? What's that going to look like when the sidewalk and the road is so close to the parking lot in the campus?
We did if I may say, we did a very detailed evaluation, just like the Gordian did a detailed evaluation of the actual facilities. We did an evaluation of all our parking lots, all of asphalt and even concrete aprons coming into the facilities. And we assessed them. We gave them a ranking, a rating of in what conditions are the critical needs can wait 4 to 7 years from now. And we're going to do several things. We have the option of just doing a seal coating of providing improvements to the existing parking lots, or doing actually cold milling, where we actually remove the top layer of the asphalt, depending on the conditions that the asphalt pavement is currently. So it's going to vary between district-wide, the campuses that are noted, that were included. Out of the 46 campuses, we're not doing all 46. We're doing certain numbers based on their need. Now, it can have different needs. It could be, like I mentioned, just patch hole repair, seal coating, or complete removal, or a combination of, depending on the campus.
Sorry, it's really about making sure the asphalt is good. It's not about, so were any issues such as lining, signage, any of that looked at or addressed? I just ask in particular because I know a couple campuses where I feel like they are in need of better markings, whether it's the sign that points the direction of the traffic. There's signs there that are turned the wrong way. You know, we've got parents coming this way and kids going that way. So was it looked at just at the surface level, or also as far as markings and signage and things like that?
It was looked at the surface level because Dr. Lanford will tell you that they have in-house crews that does painting and striping as part of the M&O facility of the district. We have our own people that can do that. And the engineering department as well, they go and they restripe larger spaces than what the M&O, our facility maintenance, cannot take care of. But there's a schedule.
And so does that time out? Like how long is our line supposed to last in a particular parking lot? Is it done every 3 years, every 5 years, every 10 years?
Every 5 years, based especially because of the environmental, we're in Texas, and depending on the use. So it's every 5 years where we try to maintain and upgrade.
Sure. So if a school hasn't been relined or re-signed in 5 years, then they can put forward the request to have that done, or what's that process?
So,
like?
Mrs. Cox,
Yes.
right now, we currently have put parking lot work on hold because our paint crews, it's the same paint crew who does interior, exterior, and parking lots. It's just different paint, right?
Sure.
So all of our paint crews across the district have been deployed over the summer to get campuses ready, to welcome new students and to also do some additional work. And we've put some clusters on a rotation as well to handle work orders. So parking lot is currently not being handled because we're trying to catch up on the painting schedule, and then we'll go back to parking lots. When you do a resurface, it's not that the company just puts in the new surface and then leaves it for us to stripe. It usually is part of the bid.
Okay.
So any project that's on here, I just want to make sure it's clear. They don't come do the surface and then leave.
Sure, no.
It's the full package of the parking lot. And then as far as other campuses, yes, our campuses put in work orders all the time for parking. But at this time, those requests are on hold as we are catching up on painting projects, interior and exterior.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for the explanation. I just have one more question. We're buying some new buses. Will the new buses have seat belts?
Yes, by law.
By law, they all have to, okay, good. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Ms. Shelton?
As we talk about buses, the 76 buses that we're going to purchase, will they replace existing buses or will they be additive to our crew?
Let's invite Bill up to the microphone, please, to join. Thank you. Bill Harrison is our Executive Director of Transportation.
Good evening, everybody. So if I understand your question, the 76 buses, we have the 60 big buses and the 16 sped buses. That's 76 buses that I used. The industry averages are about 15 years and 200,000 miles. That 76 buses are 16 to 17 years old right now, and they're pushing 230, 250,000. So, and then you have to keep in mind, once we get a PO to buy a bus, it takes about a year to get those buses. So if we go to bond, the bonds are sold in January, we order buses in February, we're talking about a year and a half from now. So those buses are gonna be 17, 18, 19 years old. So that's where I have other we missed the 2020 bond. We were getting ready to order 154 buses. We put a project together in the fall of 2019, but we didn't have the bond. So since then, we've reduced routes, consolidated, a few less students in the district. So that 76 basically replaces almost half of my regular route buses that are on the road right now.
Okay. And then, so with the, assuming you get your 76 buses, or we get the 76 buses, what will become the age of the oldest fleet? Will they still be 17 years old, or are they a little younger?
We have a fleet of 400 buses.
Oh,
I use about 270 in my figures. Now, I mean, we have buses that are aged out that are 21, 25 years old. We use them as spare buses. Some are freezing for parts. We have some on we have 5 on every high school campus that they use during the season to transport kids around town. And then we keep about 80 or 90 buses. We have all the middle school coaches, all the high school coaches, so that it exhausts that 400.
Okay.
And so I'm really using 270, 75 buses as what I have. 210 regular route buses, that includes the sped buses.
Okay.
And I keep 60, 70 that I need as spares because there's breakdowns or just anything can happen. We get behind, go grab those buses. It's just part of the business. And out of that 210 that I use every day, next Monday, we'll have 210 route buses going out. It's those 76 that they're already at 15 to 17 years old, and by the end of this school year, they'll be over 250,000 miles.
So you'll replace those with these new ones?
We'll just pull those.
And be the backup
buses.
buses?
Yeah, we'll just pull those out. Because we missed that bond, TEA, we report to TEA our usage of buses. So there's how many buses do you have that are 0 to 5 years old? Well, we don't have any.
Okay.
And then how many do you have that are from 6 to 10 years old? I believe it's 50 or 60. And then anything 10 and over, 82% of our buses are over 10 years old.
Okay.
The industry averages, you want to maintain a fleet at about 10 to 12 years old average, and we're right at about 14 years old.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if I'm answering your question.
I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They're old.
One question I had was about line item 4, the hidden forest control measures, erosion control, and what does that look like? If anybody knows, I'm sorry, what does that process look like? Not what does it look like?
Oh, not what the current condition is,
no,
but
no,
what
I know
the
what
solution
the current
is?
condition is, but what does that solution entail?
It entails
generally.
It entails providing retainage walls to prevent from water, rain surface water going straight into the existing buildings. So it's going to be a diversion of channels, swales, retaining walls connecting to the existing storm drainage system that the city has on the south end of the campus. So it's doing a complete evaluation of the existing drainage, providing drainage improvements, and upgrading the existing and implementing new facilities, new structures to manage the rainwater.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Any other questions for the non-Gordian contingent? Ms.
I just have
Villarreal?
to say, you know, I drive around town and I look at our buses in comparison to the other districts. And our buses are really vintage and they're also very, very chalky. And no one can accuse us of being spendthrifts over buses. So I can see why that we need those. And I commend you for keeping those on the roads because you need a good group of mechanics, and I can see that. So thank you so much for getting our kids to school.
I'll pass that on. All right, we'll move on to the Gordian project list.
The Gordian project list, I'd like to indicate that there were more than 188 projects that are being recommended. It's a total of 381, and that is shown on the actual 11 by 17 sheet of projects. The committee evaluated projects that consisted with R22 chillers replacement upgrades, fire alarm systems, DDC controls, elevators upgrade, boiler replacement, and other critical need projects that the committee evaluated. And using a different rubric, the committee felt that it was not proper or efficient to use the rubric for the non-Gordian with the Gordian projects. So a total of 381 projects are being recommended, a total of $157 million, $158 million worth of projects. And this was a tremendous work by the committee because they evaluated so many projects. I would like to recognize Elliot because he's a subject matter expert. He knew exactly, working together with Gordian, long conversations, continuous conversations with them to improve the district's MEP systems and building envelopes.
And for the Gordian projects, we really wanted to utilize the data that Gordian provided, so we stuck to their criteria when we were grading each project, with some tweaks from the facility operations and maintenance staff on their feedback from the day-to-day hands-on efficiencies and maintenance status of each equipment. So I will note on here, there are a lot of projects on the Gordian list. I think in sum, the total value that Gordian assumed to, let's say, bring current all the pieces of equipment and maintenance items was over $600 million. And so there's an extraordinarily large amount of projects on here, and it was difficult to narrow them down. So essentially we had to rely on the categories and do the most critical first and work down. And so while there are a huge number of projects that were selected, there are plenty more that can be selected. And I think our chairman of the committee, the steering committee, noted we think it is very vital that moving forward we maintain the consideration for bonds to maintain our facilities every 5 years. We'll open up for questions.
Great, yeah, I know this is a big one, and they're not the sexy projects by any means, so.
Well, there's nothing like a good chiller.
That's true.
Especially in Texas.
Especially in Texas. Ms. Shelton, question?
I have 7, I think. Fire alarms. I'm assuming all of our schools currently have fire alarms. This means upgrades to our fire alarm systems, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We are currently in compliance with all our fire alarms, but they are getting older and we need to update them.
Okay. Page 8. Direct digital controls. What is that?
Great question. So it's a building management system, and basically what it does, it's the brains for our HVAC. It's the way we automate how we turn on and off HVAC. We do some exterior lighting with it. The best way I could describe it would be if you went to your personal home and turned on your AC unit but didn't have a thermostat, it would constantly run until you turned off the breaker or the switch. So that's basically what controls do for us. We can set up a schedule. We can tell it when to kick on, when to stop, but also it monitors everything going on. It's not a house with one thermostat. We have multiple areas, and so all of that has to be communicated. That's what controls do. Controls communicate everything together through software, and it tells the AC when to kick on, when to stop, things like that, when to start warming up, Otherwise, as an example, Reagan High School just got brand new chillers, and when they first kicked on, when we didn't have controls on there, I believe it was running 60 degrees throughout that building, just because we couldn't control, it was an on or off, that was it.
Is it this, so a couple questions
Yes,
related
ma'am.
to that. One is a security question. So I'm assuming this is cloud-based? Yes or no?
It's software-based, so we have software that's outdated, but we do have software, and so as we communicate, it does, it is cloud-based in the sense that it sends a message to where we need it to.
They can be accessed remotely from a
Yes.
central location across the entire campus.
So what this does, Ms. Shelton,
yes, sir.
Give me a shot at it, and if I'm wrong,
Yes, sir.
Elliot, let me know, right? This allows for just a couple folks to sit over in an office and be able to monitor our entire system of HVAC, correct?
Yes, sir.
So just think of it as they're sitting at this big terminal and are able to see, hey, what's working and what's not working. Hey, we have an issue over there. And a flip side is, hey, I need, Larkspur Elementary says, hey, we have a fair that's going on Saturday and we need air conditioning in the gymnasium. This allows you to remote go in, program that so that nobody ever goes out on site, correct?
Correct.
That's basically how it all works.
Okay, that's what I assumed.
Right.
What is the redundancy? Or is there redundancy?
Our technicians are the redundancy. So if controls are down, we have technicians who can go out and start up or bring down chillers.
So the school has no control?
No, schools put in requests.
No, I mean, the school has no control on site.
That's correct.
So everything then gets controlled by the district.
That is correct.
Do
We
all-
determine the time it's on and off, and if they have an after-hours request, like the Larkspur example, then they put that into a system to request those after hours, and then that is programmed from somebody at the maintenance department.
And what is, okay, it's probably for another day, but how quickly can we turn around when they ask us that it's really cold in here, it's 68 degrees? Can you drop the temperature to 72 or 75?
Yes, they can be responsive, yes.
Okay, so further back, you talk about rooftop, you talk about HVAC. Do these digital controls connect to a specific system, or are they agnostic to systems? Are they system agnostic?
They, by agnostic, what do you mean?
So will it work with I don't even know the name of my HVAC. Will it work with my Linux, and will it work with the?
Great question. The software, the controls themselves work with multiple brands. So if we have, like an example, JCI is one of the control systems we have right now. It'll work with many different brands of HVAC units. It could be an air handler, different locations of the school. It'll communicate to all of that. Am I answering your question?
Yes, you are. So, and I'm going to get off of this in just 1 second. I just want to make sure I'm clear. So everyone will have the exact same digital system, every school, right? Because that becomes the way that you talk to it. And it's okay if that school has a different HVAC brand.
Yes.
Because the system is agnostic and it can work with multiple brands at one time.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay.
Yes, and the benefit of having that control system at the maintenance level is it lets us keep a better track on utility usage and ultimately utility cost.
Right.
So that is constantly monitored. Our campuses and central office get reports on utility usage. And having that all centralized not only lets us, manage the systems, but also manage the cost.
Right. And our only redundancy, though, are the people. So if something breaks, the school has there's no opportunity for the school to make the adjustment so that the children aren't too hot or too cold.
Right, that's why we have that amazing facility maintenance staff who's making everything work every day.
The MacGyvers, I love it. Okay. I am
Yeah,
moving on to
and
page
Ms.
11.
Shelton, just so you know, because I want to make sure, when we go out and bid items, there are spec sheets. So we just don't go out and say we want an HVAC unit. We are very specific. So we would say it has to work within this system.
Okay.
It has to do so that it's not just a matter of, hey, bring us whatever we want, or whatever you have. It's more of, here are the specifications that you need to meet, in order for us to even consider you as a vendor or as a component.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, that's fair, and I appreciate it. Page 11, number 198. What is a commercial paint booth?
So there's many times that the school does need things painted, and we bring it back to our shop, our maintenance shop, and we paint it there. It is a smaller, older paint booth, and so we do need to update it so that we can paint the things off-site and then take them back to the school and install them or give it back to the school.
Yeah, when you use certain paints and types, you're required to have certain types of exhaust systems, filtration systems set apart so that it doesn't transfer and pose a risk to any health or safety.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know we took stuff back. So number 205, drinking fountains. Are these literally like old school push the button, bend down, or are these refill the bottom, save the environment?
These would be replacing the current non-bottle fillers with bottle fillers.
So we're moving to bottle fillers.
To bottle fillers.
Okay, awesome. I'm on page 13, item 278 through a lot, through 303. What are roof coverings?
It's your roof. It's just the rooftop.
With roof membrane.
With who?
Roof membrane, the actual roofing itself.
Right.
There's a
many
material
different
that
types.
rolls out and then you have to treat it, and that's actually what keeps the rain from coming in.
Many different types, so it's
Yep.
easier just to say roof coverings.
Oh, okay, it's very exciting. Thank you. I think that was all of my questions. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Cox, and then Ms. Landry.
Hey, I just have to, with the digital controls, why is there so much difference in the pricing? Is it just the size of the campus, or,
It is, so.
you know, like, why is Johnson over $1 million and then most of the other ones are not?
So most high schools are going to be close to the same price. And what we're looking at is the amount of equipment that we have to communicate with.
Okay.
So there's the difference is different size of campus will require different amounts.
Okay, that's fair, because Johnson's pretty big. So when it mentions exterior windows, what does that mean?
So literally like at CLC or Nimitz, we have single pane windows in some of these. They're just older.
Right.
Original to the building, so we want to replace the windows.
Like double pane
Yes,
windows?
ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm gonna flip. So on page 6 and page 11, we have Harris Main Building chillers with two considerably different prices. Why do we have two prices for Harris for seemingly the same project? So it's 192 on page 11, and on page 6, it's number 11. And one's 224,000, and the other one's 1.1 million.
Okay, so the difference would be on page 6, these are all R22 chillers. And so the difference in cost is the size of what they feed. But that's why this is over here versus the ones that are on this backside. We're replacing the R22s, and these on page 11 they're just old and needing replacement, but again, it's basically what they feed. So on page 11, that would be feeding more like the campus versus on page 6 where it's feeding maybe a section of the campus.
Okay, so is that true for all of the chillers on page 6? They're just feeding segments of the campus?
Well, I will point out, like, let's say on page 6, row 29 and 30, we have Roan Forest twice, which doesn't look right, but they have two chillers at Roan Forest. They're both R22, and those are what feed the whole campus.
And
So
one of the main things that we considered was getting up to current standards with refrigerant types. R22 is beyond outdated, and it's more expensive because they don't make it anymore. And so these chillers are already had a long use of life, and you can't buy new R22 chillers. You have to replace them entirely or buy very expensive refrigerant. And so we looked at it across the district. Are we able to get rid of these with more efficient, more productive chillers?
So is that the case that Harris is replacing the R22, whereas the lower cost, I guess I'm still not understanding.
Let me take a crack at it. So these are itemized, meaning if a campus has 4 chillers and we're trying to replace all 4, you'll see it 4 times. So it's itemized. This is not like the total package for Harris. It really, or any campus, it really is touching each project individually. And so on pages 6 and 7, that is all of the R22 chillers. So the prioritization was to get rid of all R22 chillers across the district for the same reasons that Mr. Jones just said. They're outdated, you can't purchase the refrigerant, it's just not something we need to have around. So those 2 pages is all of them across the district. Then the additional air conditioning that you will see, the different chillers you will see that begin, we actually have air handlers, which is of course part of the HVAC system at the bottom of 10, all the way through. You have some chillers on 11, as you mentioned. These are all different units at the same campus. So you approved a replacement project at Reagan of 4 chillers. Had that been on here, it would have been listed 4 times.
Okay.
So to answer your question, I'm sorry, we do it by the tonnage. A chiller is measured by tonnage, and we factor in a certain cost per ton. And so that's where the variation in price comes from too, is if you're looking at it and seeing a cost difference, it's because the size of chiller really is what it is.
Okay, and so if the $1.1 million chiller at Harris had been multiple, it would have been listed several times and split out, but in this case, it's one huge chiller for a bigger space.
That's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Actually, there's 2 chillers there. Just
On
like
this
at
one?
Oak Meadow, there's 2. Line 195 is actually 2 chillers there also. So the higher price that you're seeing, and I'm seeing that now, why you're seeing 1 chiller at that price, it's really 2 chillers that are at that site.
Okay, and so I just want to reiterate what I said earlier, and throughout this whole document, I think it's important for us to have the life expectancy of the line item for the project and the current usefulness and details like, this is 2 chillers, this is.
Certainly. Yep. And the Gordian packet has all that information. Too vast to put in just a presentation, but all that information is available in the Gordian data.
And so maybe we just need a way to tie that together
Sure.
so that we understand we're comparing and
Certainly.
for our community as well. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Ms. Villarreal?
When we buy these chillers, do we buy from one vendor in one type of chiller, one brand of chiller? Or do we buy multiple brands of chillers?
We love competition. Absolutely, we love competition. And we buy from manufacturers that have proven themselves to be trustworthy, reliable, that their systems are long-term, and that our mechanical individuals, our teams, know how to repair and are certified to repair those particular chiller units. So we are very selective, and we would like to base our decisions on customer service, how reliable, how responsive they are in their warranties, because these chillers have a good warranty period. So that's how we select who we're going to
Well,
put.
what I'm asking, the reason why I'm asking this is, would we get a discount if we bought from, one brand from the manufacturer, just one brand district-wide? Or do we just go with multiple brands and maybe miss out on some discounts? Because I know that if you tell them, look, I want 20 chillers, we would probably get a better price break at 20 than we would at 10. So I'm just wondering, how do we determine, is it based upon the performance and what's needed at a district is the type of chiller? Or is there any one brand that can service all of our, campuses? How do we determine that?
Most chillers are very comparable. We avoid proprietary systems, chillers that have proprietary that are not user-friendly, that we have to buy their parts and only their parts and their technicians to replace the parts. So we go with non-proprietary systems. So we based our decision based on a very logical format, and we open it up to multiple vendors that are very similar. We do evaluations. Our maintenance and operations evaluate the different chiller systems that we have across the district, and we have preferences. There's some chiller manufacturers that are more reliable, more energy efficient, and again, more responsive whenever a chiller goes down. And so we have conversations with the manufacturers, their local representatives, and if they do not improve their service, they're not going to be considered. They're not going to be evaluated or ranked high in the next following project.
Understood.
And to get that better pricing, you would bundle things together so that you get that competitive pricing in that bid.
That's what I'm concerned about, every
Yes.
little penny. Yes, got it.
Ms. Thompson?
I don't know who I'm looking at. When Gordian did their assessment, and that information was presented to the efficiency committee, it was a comprehensive kind of, I guess, score that was given to every campus. And I'm thinking of District 1 and Churchill High School. So that main building is over 50 years old. I know it was given this comprehensive score, but I don't understand how that building is as good as, the newer parts of that campus. I know where did that fall within this process? Not revamping that building. I mean, it's beyond that, I think. But getting rid of it, did that ever come up?
The Gordian study did not address that. What is the likelihood of a particular building being demolished or removed? They just assess its current needs, its current function, how it was performing. Where there is that particular building that you make reference, Ms. Thompson, is had a rate, had a ranking, but not as overall. It had more of all the different building components, in mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, its roofing systems, its a building envelope. And it all factors in. You can get a composite score of that building compared to a newer building there on the campus. But their position was not to tell us what building needed to be demolished or needed to be factored into a replacement. It was just what are the building components, what are their current state.
Okay.
One key factor that may be beneficial is what they call the net asset value. Is it weighs the cost of replacement to bring to date versus the cost of I believe the longevity or just infrastructure at that building. George, you may be able to talk about that a little bit more than I can in depth.
The net asset value gives the owner an understanding of what is the replacement cost, what is the value, the present value of that building. And it compares to what will it take, what will be the cost of replacing that completely with a brand new similar facility. So the higher the net asset value indicates that it's a very good building. The lower the number is that your return on investment, you have to not continue operating, you have to demolish that, replace that particular structure. So we can ask Gordian to give us a net asset value for specific components within the campus, and it will determine what we know, that that particular building, the main building, needs attention.
Yes, and that was a factor we considered in our rubric, the school's net asset value.
Right. I know the school comprehensively, but that building in particular is very different, unique compared to all of the other buildings on that campus and really our other campuses in general. So I just wanted to bring attention to that. That was it.
No other questions? Any other Gordian-related questions or M&O elements?
I did one more.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's fine.
The other one that I questioned was, are all of the Gordian projects funded? Like on our other categories, we have paid things that were not funded. Are all Gordian?
No, I think we have close to 1,000 that are not funded in the sum of $450 million worth of work.
Okay.
And I think that's worth the Gordian report that we've have access to. It is, they did rank everything, gave net asset values to everything. And so my assumption is that these Gordian projects were the ones that met the highest score total.
That is correct.
Along with the other rubric stuff that you put on.
Yes.
And so it is an exhaustive list, and as we've understood, it is a list that can be updated. And so as things get repaired, they go to the bottom of the list, and the next thing moves to the top. So it's a living document, as far as we understand it to be, so that it's for longevity and not just this bond or this immediate need. It's sort of a go-forward plan. Any other questions related to this?
Questions related to another document we received.
Okay, let's finish this, or if we're done with this one, then we can move on to the next, or I don't know what's after this in the presentation, but I think we're good. Gentlemen, thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Appreciate you answering questions. Let's see, what is next
That's
on
the end of
list?
our presentation.
Okay.
So we are happy to answer any other questions.
So segue to questions about other documents.
Right. Thank you so much. This was actually really, really good. Thank you all so much for this. There's this paper. Can you walk me through these numbers?
Which paper are you looking at?
Sorry, this one.
Are you referring to the projects by single-member
By
district?
single-member district.
Yes.
That was in your board packet?
Yes, ma'am. The math doesn't add up to $495 million. So I just want to make sure I understand.
Sure, so there's overlap between single-member districts. So for example, this is based off of attendance, not location of the building. So for example, Mrs. Villarreal and Mrs. Thompson both have Churchill attendance, although Churchill is physically located in only one SMD. So there is overlap between SMDs because your attendance area, the constituents that you serve, may attend a school that's not physically located in your single-member district. So you may share that school with somebody else. And so that's why the numbers don't add up, because a project will appear on multiple lists.
Then that means we're counting it. That means the math is, we're counting it twice.
This is for your consideration, so you understand what your single-member district is receiving. We're not counting it twice as far as for the voters. What we're letting you know as a trustee with constituents of what projects are in your area. But again, your attendance area, your campus, may be shared with another SMD so that you both would have Churchill High School on your list, as an example. This is for your reference. We took all of the projects from the big paper, and those that were district-wide or specific to your SMD, we tried to make it convenient for you so you would know what's appearing for your community.
I appreciate that. What I'm saying is the top sheet for me is not clear, so I don't understand if we go to the second page, for example, right? Let's go to the next page, and to your point, there is B3. It's in middle school and high school replacement of CTE lab, and it's Bradley, Churchill, Eisenhower, and Jackson, and it's $4 million, right? What would be more helpful for me to really understand these numbers is, none of these are my schools, but let's just say I'm Churchill. Of this $4 million, how much of that is being attributed to Churchill? And then that's the number that would tally up to the front page, so I could really clearly understand. As I look at the numbers on the front, it's not clear what percentage am I really, because it's bundled together.
Understood.
So, and just for clarity, our political boundary lines are not the same as the attendance boundary lines. And so that's why there's going to be some overlap. And I think the idea here is to provide just sort of a general number of, this is sort of the percentage that we are getting for your political boundary lines, not your attendance zones specifically. Because we do overlap attendance zones and cluster lines with our politically drawn boundaries. And so I understand what you're saying. I don't know that I would necessarily want to go back and do work to try to redo some, because this gives me sort of an order of magnitude to say, in my general area, this is kind of what I'm getting, without tying it to the overall more, I guess, official document or spreadsheet that is showing us what equals the $495, million. So I think I understand what you're saying, or maybe I don't, but just because we cross cluster and attendance zones, that could get confusing on trying to how to break that out specifically.
I will disagree with it, but this is not.
You, can you turn your microphone on, please? You can tell me you disagree. That's
I just say I'll disagree and commit, but this, because as I look at the detail, it doesn't help me understand. Like, I get that it's general.
Sure.
And if we're saying generally this is what it is, okay, that's fine. But what I thought this was gonna give me was kind of the compilation of what's in this other document. And I don't think anybody needs to redo the work. It was confusing to me as I tried to add up the numbers and make it make sense. So.
Sure.
We can just leave it as it is.
Okay.
And I think, Ms. Caldwell, correct me if I'm wrong, but some of this is also because some of these projects, because they're district-wide, they were put in under, because while it's not happening in your SMD, it's benefiting students in the SMD. Is that correct?
Correct. So think about the teacher laptop deployment, the other student technology deployment that's happening district-wide. So that is not specific to any one SMD. But I do hear what you're saying, for single-member District 2, as an example, some of the projects on your list, there would be potentially some updates, and we're not itemizing what that update is, so you don't know what cost of roofing repair is going toward MacArthur versus Windcrest. And I hear what you're saying
That's my
about that
point.
itemized piece.
Yeah. And Wilshire no longer exists, right? But it's in here. So
Because
Right,
the
but
building is
this was
still
earlier,
being maintained.
right.
And as I mentioned earlier, we're still gonna maintain the playground, we're still gonna maintain the walking track, we're still gonna maintain the roof and the systems. So while it's no longer an elementary school, it is still a district facility that we're going to provide a nice facility for our community to utilize and for our staff as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So Driscoll, Clear Spring, and Wilshire are all accounted for in this
Yes.
list of projects.
Yes, because we are still utilizing those campuses, they're still assets to our taxpayers.
And on page 48, that's where we have the district-wide projects like the police vehicles. You turn to the back of your handout, that separates those items.
Right. And I don't know, Ms. Shelton, if this helps you or not, so as you did to Mr. Byer, you can tell me, nope, it doesn't. That's fine by me. But if I look at page 4 of 49, all right, so we'll just use that. I know it's not your S&D, but it says page 4 of 49, okay? So it says Project C 2.03, Direct Digital Controls. Ms. Caldwell, correct me if I'm wrong. $31,268,242 is the total budgeted amount for those direct controls, correct? And of that, these are the campuses in that S&D that are going to be impacted. It's not the dollar amount that attributes to that, but of the total package is going to cost us of direct digital controls of just a little over 31 million, and it's going to hit these campuses in that area. Is that correct? We just didn't break it out specifically to say Bradley Middle School was 272,000, Churchill was 800 and something thousand.
Well, we did it over here, and so that my thought was.
Right.
It's an Excel sheet, right?
Sure.
You transfer it over and the numbers add up, and then it matches all the way across. So that's, but I hear you, and I appreciate that you heard me, and I will, I appreciate the work.
And I will concede that that is also a little misleading, but we're good.
Thank you.
We're good. General questions, comments?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Landry?
Yes. So just a couple of questions and comments. So for all of these projects, if we move forward, we get the money, we get these things done, then how do we fund the ongoing maintenance costs? How do we make sure we have line of sight to what needs to be done as it needs to be done, so we don't have to pay? And I know it's a living list, it's a living document. Does it go into the general budget? Does it become part of our maintenance and operation? Or do we come back in 5 years and ask for so much more?
So, right, I'm trying to make sure I understood your question correctly. So if we go to if you all vote to go for a bond, and if the voters approve it, and we repair these things, right? One, it'll go into the Gordian document, and we'll know, okay, that's, I think you asked the question, Ms. Landry, about, do we now have this as an ongoing for our life? Yes. So we'll instantaneously enter that into that system, into that dashboard. This is where Ms. Caldwell started to get heartburn when she realized it. But you enter it in, and it immediately pushes that priority down, so we know where it is. We also then know when things are due and such, so we have better line of sight. Does that mean that in 5 years from now, you may be sitting here looking at a different list? No, that could, because again, that's the 12 million square feet that's out there. And I think you heard from pretty much all of them. They had all of these projects, and they really filtered them down to do some things. Is that going to say that, I don't know, I mean, a roof needs to be done in 5 years? Could be. We do our best to try to fund everything we can to the greatest extent out of our M&O fund. But I think the 7 of you know better than most that what we receive from the state, when you look at our budget, is 87% of it's in people. It doesn't leave a whole lot of meat on the bone, so to say, to take care of all of these big, very large capital kind of projects. And again, I think, and I heard some comments up here, and I want to say it publicly. Folks, there's not really building any shiny new buildings out of this. This is really taking care of. Ms. V, you were shocked that we have single pane windows. Yeah, I'm shocked that it's more prevalent than I was shocked at R22, how much of it is still there. This gives us a better opportunity to plan moving forward, but it's not going to rectify everything this time around. There's just no way. There's no way.
And so I hear you say this time around, and looking at the chart of the 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015 bonds, one of the questions that I know we all get is when do our taxpayers see relief and not expect to pay for the continuation? Like, if we paid off 2003 and 2007 and then we've got a new bond, when does that become okay, we can no longer afford to do this? What can we afford in looking at what we can afford to actually maintain versus going and borrowing? And that's a question that I get a lot. And so are bonds a part of our ongoing expectation? Is that, just the answer, just the way it is? How do we set that expectation with the community and with the taxpayers who want to know that even though this bond didn't increase their taxes because they just got done paying the last bond, is that never ending?
Yeah, I think I would say, Ms. Landry, we haven't had one in 10 years. And so I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball to look in 5, 6, 7 years from now. You heard from the Facility Steering Committee that they recommended this kind of 5-year cycle to it. I think in today's environment, things are so volatile and so unpredictable. we don't really know what we can see. I remember a time when I could foresee pretty clearly, you could work with groups and they would say, hey, you're going to get this many kids over this next 5 years. And they had a pretty good level of certainty to it. There's no certainty anymore to any of it. There are so many different variables that are happening in the world. And I'll just tell you about the one where I attended and listened to the CEO of USAA and HEB talk about change. And they said, it's not just the amount of change that it is coming to these organizations, it's the rate at which it's happening. It's unprecedented. And and we're seeing it in education too. So look, schools are owned by our communities. That's who owns them. And it's up to our community to determine the level at which they're comfortable in their facilities being. But as we went through consolidation, what I heard very clearly is they don't want a junky old building left in their area, which is why the investment is back into those facilities to keep them up, because nobody wants that. We have built schools, we being the collective we in the district, inside of communities. And so over time, we're going to have to continue to make determinations about those facilities, along with listening to our constituents about what is the level of which they're comfortable in keeping that, because it's in their facility or it's in their community. So what does that look like? What does that function like? And then what level do you expect it to work? You know, the one I give out all the time is, everybody loves when we walk in and the air is nice and cool in here, or it's nice and warm, or whichever. Nobody likes it when it doesn't work. And we all take those things for granted, right? That's why I said this is the unflashiest proposal I've ever seen in my life, because there's nothing in it that's real glitz and glamour. It is literally, and I kudos to the facility steering committee that did the work. They're really looking at just saying, look, these are just essentials. That R22 stuff went out in 2010. You don't fix it, what are you going to do? Because ultimately, it's going to cost the taxpayer more money over time. So some of this, and the example I give, is when my wife and I moved into the house that we're currently in, we were in it for about 4 months and it got hit by hail. All right? Replaced the roof, thank goodness insurance, but of course you always have a deductible and all that good stuff, right? That was great, so we got on a new roof, we were excited, super. 7 years later, it gets hit again. Okay, now at that point I have to say, am I really going to keep letting that get hit by hail? Or is there something else out there? So this is back to some of the projects and costs and things is, you know what, my wife and I said, you know what, it's going to cost us a little bit more to put metal on, but I looked up the street and on the hill, and the person who has metal, they've gone through 3 hailstorms and they have yet to replace it. I'm just going to go metal, because I think over time I'm going to save money just looking at that, right? That's what this is some of it is about planning and doing. But again, we're moving 12 million square feet at a time. I wish I could sit here and say, yeah, it's all figured out. Like, it's just not, I'm not going to tell you that. It's not. We're going to have growing pains. We're going to have some things. But ultimately, what we are focused on is that balanced scorecard, which is student, staff, stakeholders, and stewardship. And we want to make sure we're hitting all 4. And in this, I believe we hit all 4. We took a look at it. Because again, and I've said this as to the staff members that I've gone around talking to, I don't want to increase anybody's taxes. That's all. I'm a taxpayer. I don't want mine going up. And we don't have to do that in this round, right? What's that going to look like in 5 years? I don't know, Miss Landry. But I can tell you that, where's Miss Susie? Are you back here, Susie? Susie told me about 4 years ago, no, not long ago, maybe 2 years ago. She says, Dr. Micah, if you would have told me we could have gone 10 years without a bond or this long, I would have told you were a liar. And we did it. We found a lot of efficiencies. We've done a lot of things, but we're at that point, right, where it's kind of like, And I think that's to the facility steering committee is you keep letting this stuff go on and you create a different problem. And I'll remind you, because for those of you that were here during Gordian, what I loved is you're at a place where you can pick the projects don't pick you. I think what you see in here is we're right on that precipice. If we don't start to do some things, some projects might start picking us, like Madison High School. because I did not like a $2.1 million surprise one day.
Yes, he does.
You know, poor Madison gets it, right? But, you know, you can
No,
use
but
Reagan.
that's exactly
Right,
that's
like-
exactly my point.
But we now have a document that we can start looking for, and we can do a much better job planning.
And
Rather
that's great,
than,
and I
rather
really-
than saying, oops, I didn't know.
Right.
Again, back to my original slide, I wanted clear line of sight. I wanted to know what we own. 458 buildings, right? Now I know what we own, and oh, by the way, I know how many of all of these things that we have, and let's start prioritizing and making sure that we can address where appropriate with M&O. We're going to address it. Like we would have been talking about 2 scoreboards, rather we're talking about 1. So we were able to figure it out, right? But we were. That's what we're going to continue to do, because that, I believe, again, I'm a taxpayer. We better be a good steward of it, because I'm just not going to give money for nothing.
Well, I guess taking your question to the extreme, where you're getting at, like, at what point could we get rid of the interest in seeking part of our tax rate? You know, like, is that ever even a possibility? Which would then help people's taxes out. But then you got to balance the fact that we have aging facilities and how that all works. So.
Yes, sir. So we go out for 20, 25, 30-year bonds, and so we paid off some from the 90s, early 2000s, where we were growing quite a bit. That's why we did the 01, 3, 7, 11. We built all those schools. I mean, we're paying for some of that. Now, what we've been doing is when the interest rates were really low, we defeased quite a bit of debt. It's kind of like your mortgage, I guess. If you get a 30-year mortgage, or you get a 15-year mortgage, or a 20-year, if you make extra little payments, you can get that down. But, you know, our debt from all those years, I mean, we're still sitting at almost a little over $1 billion. So, I mean, we're aggressive in how we figure out how to do the debt, whether we do a variable or we do the fixed. But we're always looking at it, and we're always trying to, but, I mean, you know, to try to pay off $1 billion over 5 years, you know, that would be quite a aggressive thing to do. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we're paying off stuff as we're adding stuff, so it's not really an increase to the debt side of things. But you know, selling 495, if y'all and then the voters pass it, you know, we would structure the debt where we're not selling everything on January 1st. I mean, we would probably do like maybe a commercial paper program, which the interest rates are really low, and then after a year or two, we would fix it out. So, I mean, we're always looking at trying to save the taxpayers what they're going to be paying in the future. Whether we go 2, 5, 10, 15 years, we're pretty aggressive. But to be able to say in one day we'll pay everything off, yeah, if we don't do another bond issue, and maybe in 10 years we'll be debt-free, I guess. But yeah, it's hard to say, because the state does not give you any capital improvement dollars. I mean, it has to come from your debt service side. That's why there's 2 tax rates, your M&O and your debt service. I wish the state would give us money for capital outlay, but they don't, so, sorry. I'm not sure I answered that question, but yes,
Sure.
if we don't pass another bond issue, maybe in 10 years, we'll be debt-free. But that component on the tax rate is only, it's still 30 cents. And then on the M&O side, it's a little less than 70 cents. So we're less than $1, but the compression is what's kind of getting us on the M&O side.
Yeah.
One last
Yeah,
question.
absolutely.
And so I really appreciate all the work that's been done in this, and I really appreciate the review and the audit, and having was it Gordian come in and really assess where we're at and what our expectations are for future costs. But what happens if we don't get money in a bond? What happens to the other 1,500 projects that need to be fixed?
Tick them off one at a time instead of 200 at a time.
I think they start creating a problem. I mean, that's just what happens. And I think you've seen that locally. When certain things weren't addressed, they start to catch you. And when they do, it's not one. It's 10, 20, 30, that all of a sudden we've got a massive issue. Those R22 chillers all could go out tomorrow. I mean, let's face it, I don't even know, can you even get R22 anymore? It's super expensive.
Very expensive.
Like, it's ridiculously expensive. I'm worried that my Jeep's gonna go out, because it's on that. No, we all chuckle, right? But if it goes out, that's gonna cost me $1,500 just to redo that. You know, and again, when my wife and I decided to upgrade and go to a metal, so we took a loan. I didn't just have that money laying around, but I was investing back into my property, right? If it doesn't happen. I mean, we're gonna have some problems. It's just the reality of it. What they all look like, I don't know. Nobody can say, oh, well, tomorrow this is gonna happen, right? But again, being a good steward, we want to take good care of the buildings that our community has agreed to build and invest in over time. We're just saying, come back, say, look, we want to take care of them. And if we don't, well, some things won't get taken care of. You might have a leak in your front office, or, you know, whichever. I mean, those are just the things that could happen, but nobody knows for certain if they do or don't. But that's always a possibility. And if that happens, then we'll have to sit down and figure it out. But there's some things that, again, there'll be some problems.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Anybody else? All right, well, I appreciate everybody's attention and patience and questions. I think it's good discussion and got some good answers. So with that, adjournment, item 5, adjournment, and it's 9:32 p.m.